Okay, I guess we can get started with the meeting. Madam Secretary, has the meeting been duly posted?
Yes, it has.
All right, thank you. Let's go with the Pledge of Allegiance at this time, and I'd like to welcome everybody to the meeting of the Nevada Gaming Commission. Vice Chair Cohen.
Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. Before we get started right with the agenda, I just wanted to have a few things to say preliminarily here. I wanted to first point out that every meeting and for a long time, going back to Chairman Alamo days and before, we start the commission meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. And we do the Pledge of Allegiance at the commission meetings, and I do it as well as a sign of commitment and respect for our great nation and our great state. When you talk about the words in the pledge that start out with one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all, that's important to me and should be important to all Americans. The import of that for commission businesses, I always keep in mind the part about justice for all. We make a lot of decisions at this commission and at the commission level on things that affect the community, the state, and people's lives. And I always like to think that justice for all is in there somewhere, help guiding us and focusing us on what we do as commissioners and what we do for gaming and what we do for the community here. Well, now is a moment that I never thought would ever arrive. This is going to be my last commission meeting, as the papers have accurately depicted and reported. There's a nice article in the paper today from Rick Bellotta. I told Rick months ago that I really enjoy reading his articles because it allows me to brush up on what's going on in gaming. You probably never thought I would say that I'm going to read an article, get some direction and feel on an item, but Rick's articles are always so good that I frequently look at those and go back to them and see what happened as a refresher. But in any event, I started my gaming career at 14. And at 14 years old, I had the benefit of being a busboy at the ice show at the El Cortez in the showroom that they had there in those days. That was about 60 years ago. I don't know where the time went, but I think I'm having a good time. And I've served the state, as you know, on the Gaming Commission and been lucky to do it for 14 years approximately. As both a chairman, and I also served on the Nevada Board of Wildlife and was the chairman. I was also served on the board of the Colorado River Commission. Those appointments came through 5 different governors, 3 Republican and 2 Democrat. And my goal was always to get involved in the community and give back to the state. I've been an attorney for, well, almost 50 years. And my goal was to sit on 3 state commissions and chair all 3, and I've met that goal. The last 2 years in gaming for me has been very trying. It's been challenging. We always hear that Nevada is the gold standard. We see that in the papers frequently, and we see many of our governors refer to Nevada as the gold standard. And we are the gold standard. We're the gold standards for all jurisdictions. Other jurisdictions in the world look to Nevada and what they're doing. They look to Nevada and what we were doing during this COVID. They look to us for things that we do in gaming that involve new concepts, new games, new other things, and they look to see what is Nevada doing, and that's because we've been here the longest, and we do the right things in gaming, and they recognize that, and they don't want to try to build a better mousetrap when they see we're having great success here, and will continue to. Under the steady hand of both Governor Sisolak and Chairman Gibson, and the countless employees in the state gaming network, we have survived and are prospering after and during COVID. It's not gone, but we got our doors open here, and that wasn't easy to do. If you look in July of this year, you'll find that that was one of the biggest Julys gaming ever had in the history of the state. And that is all attributed to us keeping our doors open. And that's all attributed to leadership and all attributed to hard work of gaming employees. I can't say enough about the gaming employees that we all are and have, and they've kept us going. They've protected, as well as the leadership that I mentioned earlier, has protected the tourists, the licensees, employees, and naturally our community. We are open for business in Nevada, and that's because of the rapid implementations of protocols, procedures, and emergency orders that all of us don't like to see that, but we recognize that they're necessary to save lives. They're necessary to move in a direction positive for gaming, our biggest industry. And they protect the patrons, and they protect the tourists, and they protect the employees, and they protect our community. And under the direction of the people I mentioned, Chair Gibson, who worked long hours, Governor Sisolak, who directed where we're going, and during these troubled times, hard choices were made, hard decisions were made, and hard working was done by people involved in the process to go the extra mile to get the state through COVID. I frequently would see people rolling up their sleeves and getting into the trenches day and night to implement policies and procedures and do things that would somehow slow down the COVID and make our community safer for everybody. I've been lucky to serve with fabulous prior chairman of the Nevada Gaming Commission and commissioners as well. Case in point, I can't name them all, but Chairman Alamo, Chairman Bernhardt, and many, many others that I'm not going to mention here have really been a pleasure to serve with. Their heads were screwed on straight. They understood the process, they got it, and they ran gaming, and they ran gaming for the benefit of the state of Nevada and everybody involved in it. Chairs A.G. Burnett, Sandra Morgan, and other chairs of the board, also day and night, 24/7. I can't tell you how many times I met with Chair Morgan and met with Chair Burnett, and very, very solid leaders. They all work tirelessly to protect Nevada, which is, as we know, our biggest industry in the state. Being able to work together with our phenomenal staff in gaming and our state employees who have allowed me to make many friends and forge friendships that I hope will last, and I know they will last a lifetime, has been one of the really benefits of this. Getting to know these employees and work with these employees as a state employee myself, I can't tell you that how lucky we are to have dedicated people like that keep going and aren't just straight 9 to 5. In closing, words can't fully express how thankful I am for having the opportunity to experience my many roles of public service in our state and for our people. I would encourage everybody out there to get involved in our community, get involved in our state. It's very beneficial, and it's a pleasure to be able to give back to Nevada through public service, dedication, and involvement. Well, now let's go ahead and turn to our agenda and get started. And I just can't tell you how much I'm going to miss this and miss everybody in this process. But although I won't be sitting in this chair, somebody else will be. I'll always have my heart here in gaming and the people that I work. Having said that, Madam Secretary, are you ready to proceed with our next item, which I believe is public comment?
That is correct. This item is placed on the agenda to give the public an opportunity to comment on gaming related matters. For the record, we did receive one public comment via email, and that comment has been provided to all commissioners and will be attached to the disposition as part of the public record.
All right. Is there any public comment? All right. Chairman Alamo, good morning.
Well. Let me take it in for a minute. Last time I was here was March of 2020. Wow, seems like a lifetime, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Thank you for allowing me this moment. I hope you don't hold me to 3 minutes, but if you do, I'll be quick. Mr. Chairman, fellow commissioners, my name is Dr. Tony Alamo, and nobody knows more than I what it's like to sit in that chair, and later that chair, the same chairs you sat in. No one knows more than I when people call this a part-time commission. I always took offense to that because it makes it sound like it's just not that hard. People forget that all of you have full-time jobs, family responsibilities, and life in the way. And we always used to joke, remember, John, you and I, that we didn't measure our reading materials by page numbers, it was by inches. So how many inches do we have this month? There's nothing part-time about it. Mr. Chairman, I sat next to you for over 11 years of your 14-year tenure. You are the longest tenured gaming commissioner in the history of Nevada. I know the sacrifices you made to be on this commission. And John, Mr. Chairman, I just want to, and I think I can speak for the state of Nevada, I want to thank you for your sacrifice and your service to this great state. I wish all of you good luck and good health. Good luck to you, John.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And it was always a pleasure and a comfort to have you right next to me. We used to sit out on the wing where Vice Chair Bowen is and Chairwoman Brown, or Commissioner Brown. We used to sit out there and watch the magic happen. And it was really incredible. I always felt very, very good about our commission with you involved in it. And then later you leading it. That was phenomenal. You did a great job for the state. And thank you for your kind comments today.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
Good luck to all of you. Good luck, John.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Give my best to your family.
I will.
All right. Thank you. Any other public comments? Yes, sir.
My name is Mark Powell. I'm a short-term visitor from Oregon. I just learned of this meeting yesterday morning. My luck that it's occurring. I did email the board and its operations director fairly extensively yesterday, so I'm not just walking in. Also, I apologize. I thought wrongly that you would skip public comment. I didn't realize that this gentleman was also participating in public comment. I'm here with a specific complaint about a specific casino. Its equivalent monetary value is only in probably mere hundreds of dollars, not the millions that you normally deal with. So I'm glad that you stressed justice for all as an overarching theme, because you need that to take seriously a concern like mine. Now, given that it is specific and in your view, maybe in the weeds, I'm perfectly happy to wait and speak to the board either at the end or with staff later if that is more convenient or desirable for you, rather than taking, if you give me the 3 minutes now, which would be your preference, now or later.
Right. You have 3 minutes to speak. You're using up some of your time.
Well,
We
give me a
don't-
30-second warning if you
Right,
need to.
we-
Okay.
It would probably be, if you have an issue, it would probably be a lot better for you to go ahead and speak to the board or the commission, preferably the board, as to what your problem and complaints are. And then you would obviously have the right to come back at another time, at another date, and speak on the public comment for 3 minutes. anytime
That
you
would
want.
necessitate a
That would
dedicated
give
trip.
you a little bit more time, because I think we probably have used almost a minute and a half of your 3
Yeah.
minutes.
Well.
So this way you could get your arms around your problem and bring it to the attention of the board. And then you could, at another meeting, come back on public comment and go at it.
You mean for another 3 minutes?
Yeah,
Okay, well,
At
that would
another meeting.
require a dedicated trip
yeah,
from
I
out of
think that'd
state.
be best.
Taking advantage, sir, of a coincidence between being here and this
Yeah.
meeting. I want to use the whole 3 minutes without saying anything, all right?
All right.
My
Well, you'll have
concern,
a full 3 minutes at your next public comment.
sir, I'm not sure when or whether I can come back.
Well, you might want to talk to the board first and then go ahead and.
This body, I
Yeah,
thought this
and
was
the
the
way a
board.
lot of time works is people send in letters.
Pardon me, sir, is
and-
this
and-
the
and
board?
they
I
lay
thought I
out
was
their
speaking to the
problem.
board now.
Right. Well, what would you like to do? You're getting down to the end of. your-
Okay, well, I have a feeling that it's been engineered so that I probably won't be able to say anything.
Yeah,
I
well,
hope
we
that's
want to
not
hear from
true.
you, but it'd
Okay,
probably be better to
I'm
do it.
looking for you to show that you take seriously the justice for all thing and
All right.
hear a specific complaint about a specific casino improperly reneging its official written offers designed to lure back regular gamers. If that's not something you want to hear or hear at this moment, that's why I said what I said at the beginning, I'm willing to be more than flexible. But if you're just trying to jam me on against making any such expression, that's not right. It certainly doesn't
Right.
comport.
Well, if you'd like to
what it said.
present and finish your time here now, you sure can. We're not allowed to, in our meeting, we don't answer questions. We don't respond on the public comment. If you have something you want to say, you can surely say it right now. And we'll let you know when your time is ran. And then, but I think really to have a better approach at it, you could probably, if I was you, I would want to meet with somebody from staff and talk about your complaint. And by the way, we are interested in hearing things that people
As should it be everyone in the room.
Because
sir.
you're the boots on the ground, so to speak.
That's right.
And we want to hear everything that you have to say.
Would you let me at least give the outline of an outline of an outline then? Because we're
Not
still
right
going
now.
around,
Mr. Chairman,
Well,
yeah.
you
Chairman,
got like a minute.
what I
left, so go
expected.
ahead if you'd like.
Mr. Chairman, may I just to,
Hi, Mr.
how are you, sir?
Good, Chair.
To the speaker, we have a patron dispute process, and that's with the board. And I'll have, if you'd like, you don't have to be here. We'll have our enforcement chief make contact with you. And
Okay, well, that would be a proper
In that
response to the emails I've already sent.
okay,
I would like to have, though it wouldn't be, if you do your job, strictly necessary, to speak to this board in this room about what I've encountered, because it fits with his boots on the ground, frontline, justice for all philosophy. But if you're willing to, in good faith, facilitate my communication and meeting with a responsible staff officer, that will suffice.
We have somebody that can help you, like this one, or you guys.
All right, very good. Do we have any other speakers on public comment? Not seeing any. I think we can go ahead and go from the next item, Madam Secretary.
The next item on your agenda is the approval of prior month disposition. Pursuant to NRS 241.035, this item is the consideration of the approval of the Nevada Gaming Commission disposition for August of 2021.
Okay. Do we have any disclosures?
Mr. Chairman, this is for approval of the prior month's disposition, and I'd be happy to make a motion for such approval.
Okay, very good. Thank you. You made a motion for
Yes,
approval?
I
Okay.
move for approval. of the
Motion
prior
made. All in
month's
favor
disposition.
signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Motion carries. Next item.
Next item are your consent agendas for non-restricted items. Items on non-restricted consent this morning are items 3 and 5. Chairman Moran, I believe we do have disclosures on this item.
All right. Thank you, Madam Secretary.
Thank you very much,
Yes,
Chair.
Commissioner Brown.
I do have a disclosure to make for consent item non-restricted 5. Century Gaming Technologies may be related to Century Games PTE Limited, a client of Louis Roca, the firm where I'm a partner, in which matter I'm not personally involved. I make this disclosure in an abundance of caution because of the similarity of the names. I have no pecuniary interest in the outcome of this agenda item. I do not believe the independence of judgment of a reasonable person in my position would be affected by the relationship described on the record, and I therefore intend to participate. Deputy Attorney General Breinig, is this disclosure satisfactory under NRS 281A 420 and in compliance with the disclosure requirements?
Yes, Commissioner, the disclosure is adequate.
Thank you.
All right, very good. I don't see any other disclosures. Are we prepared for a motion on the consent agenda as posted? All right. Commissioner
Mr. Chairman.
Salzmanni?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for approval of the consent non-restricted items number 3 and 5 as read into the record by Madam Secretary and as recommended by the Gaming Control Board.
Thank you, Commissioner. Okay, I'll bring it back for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Madam Secretary, next consent item.
Next consent item are your restricted consent agenda items. Those items this morning are 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 13, and 14.
Very
And I
good.
believe we have a disclosure on this item.
We do have a disclosure. All right, Commissioner Brown.
I do. Thank you so much. In connection with restricted consent items 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, I'd like to just refer back to the disclosure I made in connection with Century Gaming Technologies that I just read into the record for non-restricted consent item 5.
All right, very good then. We have a disclosure. No others? All right, is it proper for a motion? All right, we have a motion maker.
I'd move for approval of restricted agenda items 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 13, and 14 as recommended by the Gaming Control Board.
All right, very good. Motion made. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? All right, motion carries. Madam Secretary, next item.
Next item is your consent agenda for new games. You have one request for final approval of a new game. That item is Super 4 Poker submitted by AGS. The recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval.
All right, this has come back before the commission on the new game. I know you saw the backups in the material. Is there anybody who has any questions or discussion on this? I don't see any. We're ready for a motion.
Chair Moran, I move for approval of Super 4 Poker new game as read into the record by Madam Secretary for approval today.
All right, Commissioner Brown, thank you. All right, we have a motion. Any discussion on the motion? Not seeing any. I'd call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Next item, Madam Secretary.
Next item is your non-restricted items held up for discussion. First item is non-restricted number 1, which is the application of MGM Resorts International and Mandalay Resort Group for an amendment to their order of registration. An application of MGM Resorts International for a finding of suitability as sole shareholder of MGM CC Holdings, Inc. An application of City Center Holdings LLC for a transfer of interest, and an application of MGM CC Holdings, Inc. for registration as an intermediary company and for a finding of suitability as a member of City Center Holdings LLC. Lastly, you have the applications of William Joseph Hornbuckle, John Milton McManus, and Corey Ian Sanders for a finding of suitability as officers and/or directors. The recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval. And Mr. Chairman, I believe we have a disclosure on this item.
I think the
Right.
disclosures for
Commissioner Brown, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. For non-restricted item number 1, Mandalay Resorts Group and MGM Resorts International are current clients in intellectual property matters at Louis Roca, the firm where I'm a partner, in which matters I'm not personally involved. I have no pecuniary interest in the outcome of this agenda item. I do not believe the independence of judgment of a reasonable person in my position would be affected by the relationship described on the record. I therefore intend to participate. Deputy Attorney General Breinig, is this disclosure satisfactory under NRS 281A 420 and in compliance with the disclosure requirements?
Yes, it is, Commissioner.
Thank you.
All right, very good then.
Mr. Chairman, I also have a disclosure.
All right.
With
Mr.
respect to-
Solis-Rainey?
Thank you. With respect to this item, I'd like to disclose that I'm a partner at Morris Law Group. My firm and I represented various MGM entities in unrelated litigation, all of which was concluded years ago. I have no pecuniary interest in the item before us, and I do not believe that the independence or judgment of a reasonable person in my situation would be materially affected by this relationship, and therefore I intend to participate in deliberations and voting on this item. Deputy Attorney Breining, is that sufficient?
Yes, it is, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Okay, very good. Well, we got through that, Sean, and we're all ready to hear you make your record.
Okay.
And we all saw you at the board meeting as well. in your presentation and your clients. And I'm glad that we could waive Mr. Hornbuckle and Mr. McManus and Mr. Sanders. So that'll shorten it up a little bit for everybody. Why don't you go ahead and make a record and state who you're with today, and we'll take it from there.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Madam Secretary. Sean McGinnis with Butler Snow on behalf of MGM Resorts International. To my right is Pat Madamba, Senior Vice President, Legal Counsel for MGM Resorts International. Would like to thank you for the waivers that you mentioned just now for Mr. Hornbuckle, Mr. Sanders, and Mr. McManus. And also note that you had waived Jonathan Haukyard, the CFO, who appeared at the board meeting with us. We appreciate the waivers of that.
All right, very, very good. I wanted to make sure that we speak into the mics.
Right.
And trying to get the sound turned up a little bit more in the building. And if you could just, with these masks, it makes it very, very hard to hear. So if you can speak into the mic during your presentation, it'd really be helpful, and thank you.
Okay, certainly can do that, Mr. Chairman. This is actually a pretty straightforward transaction. And what this is MGM Resorts International in relation to the City Center project, the ARIA license, buying the 50% interest in City Center that Infinity World, which is owned by Dubai World, holds in City Center. So what is happening is MGM Resorts International formed a new wholly owned subsidiary, which is the MGM CC Holdings Inc. entity that's on your agenda. And that entity will acquire, upon your approval, the 50% interest in Infinity World. And therefore, with the other interest already in place that MGM holds, the other 50% interest, when you take the 50 and 50, MGM becomes 100% owner of City Center and ARIA. And that's pretty much the straightforward simplicity of the transaction. As from an operational standpoint, nothing is changing with ARIA or with any of the gaming licensee aspects or anything. The only thing that is happening is the transfer from Infinity to MGM, and then there's the subsequent sale leaseback component, which is not part of the approval, but that's something that Mr. Madamba and I can discuss.
Okay, so MGM is going to pick up the other 50% from the Dubai Group. You have two new entities that you're forming for Badera and ARIA, and then there's going to be a lease back a month, correct?
Correct, the sale leaseback.
All right, well, did you have anything else at this point you wanted to bring?
Well, I guess what I'll say is with those entities that would be formed for Badera and ARIA, those would be on the PropCo side. So what you're going to have is with the sale leaseback, the existing licensee, ARIA Resort and Casino Holdings LLC, remains the licensee, and it will be the tenant in the sale leaseback transaction, and will operate the facility, as it has been operating it thus far.
Okay, very, very good. How, if any, there won't be any effect on employees through this, correct?
None whatsoever.
Okay, so everything will stay status quo for the employees, correct?
Really, from an operational perspective.
As an operational one and
invisible
entry, okay. Let's see if my fellow commissioners have anything they would like to ask. Commissioner Cullen. Oh, I'm over here. Commissioner Solis Ramey.
Sorry, I just had a quick question. I wasn't completely clear from the board meeting. The non-gaming sides, the shops that Crystals, the Beers Towers and stuff, are those part of the sale or the leaseback transaction?
That real estate that we can currently own, we don't own all the real estate anymore, but the real estate that we currently own is part of the leaseback. So whatever we own with respect to that complex is going to be sold to Blackstone and then leased back.
Right, I understood that, and I understood that you were going to lease back the gaming operations, but my question was on the non-gaming. Are
The
you also
non-gaming as
leasing
well.
those back?
Correct,
Okay.
the non-gaming real estate that we
Okay.
own.
Perfect, I might have missed that. Thank you so much for clarifying. I don't have any further questions.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Cullen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess this question will be for Mr. Madamba. Are there any other assets in the MGM core of gaming properties that assuming this commission approves the proposed transaction, that have not been monetized?
The only property that currently hasn't been monetized is MGM Springfield in Massachusetts, which is subject to a sale agreement with MGP, and we do expect to close that transaction before the end of the year.
And so then the
We will be completely asset light at that point.
then the only other project that would be Macau, which will not be monetized because you own 56% of that, I
Correct.
believe. 215 million is what's been set forth on your annual lease payment based upon the monetization of all these properties and including Springfield, and we'll see that when that comes before the board of the commission. What is that on an annual basis, if you know?
I don't know offhand what the total lease, because I would assume you would be speaking not only the Blackstone leases, but the MGP leases.
Yes, sir.
I don't know that offhand.
And I already know the answer, but I just want it on the record. And assuming there were to be a downturn or for whatever reason, MGM does have plenty of coverage to cover these lease payments.
I'll put it this way. Since, we're on a public record and it's it is a forward-looking statement, I can only look to the past, and the immediate past has been very difficult with COVID, but we paid all of our lease payments, even though our properties were closed. So we had sufficient liquidity then, and we're hopeful that we have sufficient liquidity in the future.
That's fair enough, Mr. Bennett. Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you. If I may, I have
Commissioner Brown, yes, please do.
Thank you for coming today. Good to see you in person. And I understand that the MGM Resorts is continuing in a trend towards a transition of an asset-light operating model. I just wanted somebody to state for the record with a bit more specificity how this transaction will strengthen the operating model and guest experience. I saw the statement made, but I just would like a little more specificity for the record. If somebody could share that.
Sure. It gives us, essentially gives us complete control over the city center project in the MGM vision. And that's not to suggest in any way Infinity World, Dubai World has been an awesome partner, an absolutely awesome partner. But again, we generally speaking own all of our properties, 100% control those properties. We have some minority investors in a couple of our regional properties, but by and large, we operate our properties and we make those decisions.
And it's my understanding that Dubai World was essentially a silent partner, even though they had 3 board member positions. What was the total number of the board member positions at the time they had the 3 board member positions?
Oh, it was 6.
Okay.
So it was 3 from MGM, 3 from Infinity
Right.
World.
And it's my understanding, and just confirm if this is accurate, that the sale proceeds from the sale to Blackstone will be applied to retire bank debt. Is that correct?
It's going to be used to retire debt and other purposes.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
And it's also other corporate purposes consistent with our SEC disclosures.
Understood. Well, thank you for your time. It's pretty straightforward as I understand it, and I have no further questions.
Okay. I had a couple follow-up questions. I know at the board meeting, Chair Gibson had made a statement, and I think you acknowledged it. I just wanted to make sure that's the case. When the smoke clears on this, no entity is owned by MGM. They'll all be Blackstone. And
Well, no, what I think what you're referring to is once the MGM Springfield transaction closes at the end of which they're projecting to close shortly, then MGM will be completely the tenants, whether it's to MGP or to Blackstone.
Okay.
But we still own the operating entities.
Right.
Yeah, the operational side.
We are the operational side. The real estate will be owned by third parties, either by.
All right, and then I noticed, I want to ask you, what is the status of other jurisdictions that you're going for licensing in? Is Nevada the first one on this checklist, or are you going for licensing in any other jurisdictions present?
For purposes of this transaction?
Yes.
For purpose, the only jurisdiction that has jurisdiction over this transaction is Nevada.
Okay, so you have no other applications pending as it relates to this anywhere?
We have not, and we do expect to close this transaction by the end of the month, assuming that we obtain your approval today.
All right, very good. All right, you answered the one that I wanted to have answered. Did the commissioner have any follow-up questions? Okay, very good. Are we ready for a motion?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would move for approval of non-restricted agenda item number 1 as approved, recommended by the Nevada Gaming Control Board, and approval of the chairman to execute the 51st revised order of registration dated as of August 12th, 2021.
Draft number 1.
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. All right. Are there any discussion or questions on the motion made? Not seeing any. I'll call for the vote. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you very much for coming down here today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good luck to you with this venture.
Thank you very much. Chairman Moran, if I could just extend my best wishes to you in the future and thank you for your service. I don't know what it's going to be like appearing before the Gaming Commission without you sitting there. It's just, you're like a constant fixture there for the last 14 years. We'll miss you.
Thank you. I've always enjoyed you coming in front of this commission, and you always do such a wonderful job for your clients and make it pretty clear for us when you do your presentation. We usually know all the things that you're bringing out to us. You do a great job representing clients in front of us, and it's always a pleasure to see you down there.
Thank you.
Have a good day. All right, Madam Secretary, next item.
Next item is non-restricted number 2, which are the applications of Dubai World for termination of registration as a holding company, and Affinity World Holding Limited, Affinity World Cayman Holding, Affinity World Cayman LP, Affinity World Investments LLC, Affinity World Cayman Investments Corporation, and Infinity World Development Corp for termination as registration as an intermediary company. The recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval.
Very good. And I see Mr. Silver has approached the stand and is standing there. And before you get to start talking, I just have a couple of comments. First of all, the commission would like to congratulate you on your induction into the gaming, correct? Okay, you're nodding your head, yes. Okay. I feel like I'm taking a deposition here.
Well, I'm afraid to get too close to this microphone because it looks a little like a
Oh,
COVID virus molecule with the cover on it. But other than that,
so has that induction, well, it's a safe microphone. We're practicing safe microphone here. Do we have a little, tell me a little bit about your induction. Has that happened?
it occurs on October 5th.
Okay.
It's the American Gaming Association annual G2E presentation. They skipped it last year, and this year they're going to induct a class of 3 each for 2020 and 2021. And I was fortunate enough to be nominated. I refer to it as the Wizard of Oz Award because it's been like I've been the scarecrow, but I finally am getting a testimonial. It's like
I understand.
showing up after 50 years of the law practice. But I'm very excited about it.
I can remember. I'm giving away a little bit more how long you and I have been standing across from each other in these proceedings. I can remember when I was on the other side standing where you were, and you were up here as a board member. That was a long time ago.
Boy, we really are old, aren't we?
Yeah, we are. We're still standing.
I know. Well, I'm going to introduce myself and my client, and then I'm going to say a few words, if I can, a little bit about our relationship and
very good.
My feelings about the commission. But my name is Jeff Silver. I'm with the Dickinson Wright Law Firm. With me today is Mr. William Grounds, who's the COO and president of Infinity World Development Corporation and a number of other Infinity World subsidiaries going back up to Dubai World. And I'm happy to be here today with you, members of the commission and Madam Secretary. The first item this morning kind of took away the property that is the reason why we're seeking the deed registration item number 2. But I wanted to say at the outset that there is a very important aspect to this application. You were here for the beginning of it, and now you're here for the end of it, Mr. Chairman. This is all about leadership of the commission and the board, and about what I consider to be one of the most important aspects about this regulatory system in Nevada versus perhaps some of the other states that have gaming authorities, is the flexibility that we have in determining new ways of regulating the industry. So back in 2007, when Dubai World came forward with this original application, this commission had never before in its history approved an independent nation as a licensee, essentially. Dubai World is an arm of the government of Dubai, and the government of Dubai is an independent sovereign nation within the United Arab Emirates. And, we've approved the sovereign tribal authorities within a country, but never like this. And the flexibility that this commission showed in finding a way to handle this particular investment speaks volumes about what Nevada gaming is all about and how it cares for the people of the state, and still, while still maintaining its authorities under the public policy of gaming to make sure that all suitable persons, only suitable persons are involved in this industry. And in this particular case, I mean, we do have the managing director of Dubai World, Hamad Bouamin, licensed here. We have Mr. Grounds, and we have Chris O'Donnell that has been approved. We have the former CFO approved, Junaid Ramallah. So we did get all of the essential pieces together. But the difference in this one was we were able to approve a special Chinese wall, in this case, a Dubai World wall, where anyone else who wasn't licensed wasn't allowed to have any involvement whatsoever with this investment. Only the licensed people were going to have anything to do with the regulation and the control of this investment. And as a consequence of that, we set up a compliance committee headed by Steve Ducharme, who was, the top compliance person, former chairman of the Gaming Control Board. And he made sure that everything was appropriate, that no one had exercised any undue influence over the people, such as Mr. Grounds and others who were licensed, over the activities of this investment. And in fact, we had a compliance committee yesterday morning, and we affirmed that up until the date that I'm standing here today, there hasn't been any interference whatsoever or any violation of those understandings that have been undertaken since the first licensing back in 2007. What that did is it allowed Dubai World to make a substantial investment, some that said, $5 billion or more, in 2007, right before the Great Recession. And that project kept tens of thousands of workers employed for the construction of this facility, and gave Las Vegas in particular a shot in the arm during the time that it needed it most. So Dubai World, like I said, has honored its commitments 100% throughout, has been a great licensee, and it's only through your leadership and the leadership of other commissioners and other commission chairmen, such as Dr. Alamo, who have been here, that we were able to achieve this. And for that, I'm extremely grateful. And it only says more about what Nevada is all about and what you described in your initial comments regarding your involvement with the commission. So with that, that is the transaction. The transaction is the first piece in item number 1. And after that, we quietly take our exit and say thank you very much for the relationship that we've had with the board and the commission over the years.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Silver. And I think the commission will have a few questions. I just want to make an initial comment. We're very lucky that when you bring in front of us quality clients like you have, and the people that you represent on this are really, really solid, and they do the right thing. They use the right counsel. They go forward, and we never have any issues whatsoever with them like we sometimes have with others. And so we're very pleased with their performance here. We're glad to see them being represented by you and through you in front of us on this. And they've always been gentlemen. So having said that, one other comment. How is Mr. Ducharme doing? Is he still compliance over there?
Well, I think he's done his last meeting if you vote affirmatively on this action, because that will eliminate the need for a compliance committee for the organization over its Nevada investment. But Steve is doing well, and I'm sure that if he were here, he'd be extending his congratulations to you, just as I am right now.
Thank you. Yeah, I have a lot of history. Mr. Ducharme and myself were on the same shift and worked the same time on the Clark County Sheriff's Department. Back in the day, we were both deputies in single cars, and the town was a different town in those days, but I hope he's well. He's also a fraternity brother of mine from the Nevada Southern days. So tell him hello, and I asked about him. I'm glad to hear he's doing good. Now I'll bring it back to the commission. There may be some questions for you on this. Commissioner Solis Rainey. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I didn't have any questions. I just wanted to also extend my appreciation to Infinity World and Dubai. Mr. Silver, you described the challenges in getting this through their regulatory process, but they persevered, and I know there were hard times, but their investment in Nevada at the time that we needed it most, I think is commendable, and it definitely boosted our economy, and for that, we appreciate it. And I just wanted to say thank you for living up to everything that you committed to when you were before us for licensing, and wish you the best. If you ever want to invest in Nevada, we're happy to have you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Very good. Commissioner Brown.
Thank you so much, Chair Moran. Just briefly, welcome. How are you today?
Thank you.
Thank you for coming and appearing before us. I do share the sentiments of the commissioners and the chair here that from all accounts, Dubai World has been a stellar community partner, has invested substantially in the state of Nevada, and you're always welcome here based on your performance, and the timing was really perfect for Nevada and its citizens. So thank you, and it hasn't gone unnoticed. Just a very quick question. After the transfer, Dubai World still has significant hotel and port operating holdings. Is that accurate?
Yes, it is. Commissioners, Mr. Chairman and Madam Secretary, my name's William Grounds. Yes, we do have significant holdings in hotels, some in the US and North America, and of course our ports business, which is one of the largest port operators in the world. We have holdings here, Canada, and a lot in South America, as well as Africa, the Middle East.
And in terms of the gaming component, there's no US gaming left, and I know that there was a Djibouti gaming component at some point, and what's going on with that?
Yes, there's no other component here in the US. We did have an interest in the Fontainebleau Miami, which was talking about gaming, but that didn't eventuate. And we did, I'm not sure if we still have it. We had a hotel which had a gaming component in Africa, and I think it was Djibouti, but that was outsourced to another company. I'm not sure if they still hold that. It was a very small operation. But apart from that, no other gaming.
Thank you so much, sir, for the clarification for the record. And I see this as a companion application. I have no further questions. I'm fully satisfied and prepared to support the application.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Brown. Vice Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I share my colleagues' sentiments on the application today. It's a shame to see you go, but we also understand. We would, welcome, an opportunity for you to revisit Nevada at any time. You've done a great service, and you made history, and we're cognizant of that. As Mr. Silver so succinctly stated, to get a country licensed, we get LLCs, we get individuals, we get corporations, but a country, that was groundbreaking. Good for you. And with that, I'm fully in support of the application.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'd also like to share Jeff's thanks to the Commissioner and also the board for helping us set up the delegation of authority that we did set up. And it was a lot of hard work between the parties, but as Jeff alluded to, it worked very well. And we're proud to have been part of that historic event. Hopefully that sets the way for future foreign investment coming into Nevada.
All right, very good. Mr. Silver, anything further?
No, just thank you again and Godspeed, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Thanks, Jeff. All right, commissioners, do we have a motion?
Yes, I'm
Commissioner Brown?
Yes, I'm prepared to make a motion.
Very
Unless
good.
there are any other comments or questions, I move forward for approval of non-restricted item number 2 as recommended by the Gaming Control Board, as read into the record by Madam Secretary.
Very good. And before we take a vote on that, I want to just make sure for Mr. Silver, draft number 1 is what we're operating off of.
Draft number 1 dated July 15th, 2021.
All right, thank you, Mr. Silver. Very good. I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, motion passes. Good to see you, Mr. Silver, and thank you, sir, for coming down today. Good luck.
Thank you very much, and all the best in your retirement.
Thank you.
And congratulations, Mr. Silver, on your induction.
Thank you. Item number 4 is, I think, is the next one, Madam Secretary.
That is correct. Next item is non-restriction number 4, which are the applications of Jason Andrew Stump for a finding of suitability as key executive of Wynn Resorts Limited and licensure as a key executive of Wynn Las Vegas LLC. The recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval. Mr. Chairman, I believe we may have a disclosure on this item.
Yes, Chair Moran, I do have a disclosure. Thank you, Madam Secretary. Wynn Las Vegas LLC is a co-party in an open litigation matter handled by my law firm, Lewis Roca, where I'm a partner, in which matter I'm not personally involved. I have no pecuniary interest in the outcome of this agenda item, and I don't believe the independence of judgment of a reasonable person in my position would be affected by the relationship described on the record, and I therefore intend to participate. Deputy Attorney General Breinig, is this disclosure satisfactory under NRS 281A 420 and in compliance with the disclosure requirements?
Yes, it is, Commissioner.
Thank you.
All right, very good. Good morning, Ms. Vermees. How are you?
I'm very well. Good morning, Chairman Moran, members of the commission, Madam Secretary. Sonia Vermees, shareholder with the law firm Brownstein Hyatt Farber Schreck. Mr. Chairman, I'm glad I have this opportunity to appear this morning, and like others, I wish you well and I thank you for your contributions to the commission and to the state. And so best wishes to you, and also best wishes to you, Commissioner Cohen, with your upcoming leadership of this commission.
At least from the vice chairman until a formal announcement is made as to the successor. But thank you very much.
Very good. And you're here with?
I am here with the applicant, Jason Stump. He is the Senior Vice President and CIO North America for Wynn Resorts Limited. He's also the Chief Information Officer for Wynn Las Vegas. Also in the office, in the chambers today is Shannon Nadeau. She's Executive Director, Global Compliance for the company. Commissioners, I'll let Mr. Stump come and say a few words about his history. I will tell you that he is very important to the support and security of the company, and we ask that you approve his application today.
All right, very good. Thank you, Ms. Vermees. Good morning, Mr. Stump. How are you?
I'm great, Commissioner. Good morning.
I see you've been in gaming going back to Affinity days, I think in 2015, correct, when you're last licensed?
Yes, and I joined Affinity in 2014, but I've been in gaming since I was 18, which is very long ago. I started out as a valet parker for Harris Entertainment in Joliet.
All right. Well, tell me a little bit about your history. I saw in here. You're kind of like me. You started as a valet parker, and I was pretty far down the totem pole too in gaming.
Yeah. So
but you've worked your way up to where you're at here today.
Yes, sir. It's been a great career. I have a statement I would like to read. So, good morning, Commissioners, Chairman Moran, and Secretary Madam Bell. My name is Jason Stump, and I'm here today to seek your approval regarding my key executive license as Chief Information Officer in North America for Wynn Resorts in Wynn Las Vegas. Before I discuss my background and role with Wynn Resorts in Wynn Las Vegas, I would like to address the written warning that I received while working at Encore Boston Harbor, which is it's owned by Wynn, that occurred in July of 2018. I was questioned about this matter during the Nevada Gaming Control Board meeting. Although my conduct was determined not to constitute sexual harassment or violate any company policies, it was nonetheless inappropriate, reflecting in my testimony. I feel it's important to acknowledge that I exercise board judgment and that I do understand of the importance of maintaining professional boundaries. I've never had any problems during my 28 years in the gaming industry or have been so personally embarrassed. I have learned a very valuable lesson, and I can assure you it will never happen again. Onto my history. So I joined Encore Boston Harbor as the VP and CIO in 2018. And then last August, Wynn Resorts asked me to come and be the interim CIO for the company for North America. And then in January, I was asked permanently to be appointed for the role, which I accepted. So with that role, I support the day-to-day technical operations. I create the technology and IT security strategy in addition to finding solutions to complex business problems. A little about me, I've been married for the last 14 years with 5 children, and I've had a presence in Nevada for the last 10 years. I have privileged to work in the gaming industry during the 28 years where I've held numerous non-key and key gaming licenses, all in good standing. I have previously worked for Harris Entertainment, Argosy Gaming, Pinnacle Entertainment, Affinity Gaming, where I first got my key license, in the state of Nevada, and then Westgate Las Vegas before I joined Wynn. On the community front, I held vice president and president roles for Technology for Diversity charity, which is a Las Vegas-based charity for 3 years up until early 2020, where COVID kind of pauses the operation. The purpose of this nonprofit is to raise funds with an emphasis on diversity, young adults, and technology. I have been previously featured on Fox 5, where I have talked about these efforts. In addition, I have participated in numerous community events with Wynn, from delivering Chromebooks to families for remote learning and recording how-to videos on Facebook that was highlighted on our company's Facebook page to educate others on technology security best practices that was given to all the customers. Some of my notable achievements, I have mentored countless technology professionals. In 2008, I was selected as Nevada's CIO of the Year for my technology innovation by working at Westgate. Last year, I was named CIO of the Year finalist in a highly competitive Boston tech market. I have authored several technology articles with CIO Review Magazine, Gaming and Leisure Magazine, and I have been a previous speaker at G2E and other conferences. Last August, the Nevada COVID Task Force reached out to me to get my technology on the guidance on their technology tracing efforts, which I did help them. This past June, I was recognized as a Digital Transformation Executives Top 150 in the United States. So that's a little bit about my history, and I welcome any.
Well, that's a lot. That says a lot about you, and I appreciate you sharing that with us. I was interested. I want to ask you a question about the nonprofit for diversity. What kind of projects do they involve themselves in?
So what we do is we have a board of gaming and non-gaming executives, and what we do is we do a fundraiser throughout the year, and we select nonprofits come to us and say, hey, we would like a donation from your board. And so we take that and we divide it up. We've had women in leadership and technology, where there's a huge need for. Project 150 has been a previous recipient of the money that we provided, and Tech Impact. In Tech Impact, I talked about this in the Nevada Gaming Control Board meeting. Tech Impact, which is awesome, is it takes children that have graduated high school but do not have enough money to attend college, but want to pursue a career in technology. They get to go for free. I think it's for about 4 months. It's a 16-week boot camp where they learn all the ins and outs of entry-level PC work. And then they do an internship with various companies, and then they get hired on.
That's wonderful. I'm really interested. When I heard you mention that at the board meeting, I think it was in a response to a question by Chair Gibson, but it really perked my ears up, because I like, and historically all the time I've been on the commission, I really like it when people appear in front of us and they're involved in the community. And, involved in a nonprofit here that helps children in the community. Those are the kind of things I like to see corporate leadership really get involved in. It's so important that we do that. And we don't simply have somebody comes in from out of state, makes a bunch of money and leaves and doesn't do anything for the community. That's not the way I like to see it ran. So I'm really happy with that you're involved in that. Myself, our family's been involved for many years in West Care Facility for Women and Children with drug problems. And I think a couple of years ago, we had 22 new babies born at the facility, and all of them tested negative for drugs. So it was wonderful. But yeah, getting involved in the community, that's what it's all about. And that's good. It speaks very well of yourself. I don't have any other questions for you. I didn't put you on the consent because I did want to talk to you about that. And having said that, let me see if we have Commissioner Brown.
Thank you so much, Chair Moran. Thank you for coming today. I appreciate your presence. I did want to understand better the technology for diversity and I think it's a 4-month, 16-week certification program. Can you tell me how many people have successfully completed the certification program since inception?
Yeah, so when I talk about technology for diversity, so it's a board. We don't actually run the Tech Impact. That's actually a separate company that we've given money. I don't know, but they have a presence in many states. They have a presence here in Las Vegas. As an example, my son's going through the program. He's 22. And so he's going through the program right now. But I don't have that data because it's not managed by us, but we help. So as an example, my chief information security officer, he mentors the students as well, in addition to other leaders in Las Vegas.
Thank you. And then there was a mention when I watched it during the board proceedings. I don't know if it's a separate project. It related, I thought, to homeless children and a schooling project inspired by your father, who was an orphan.
Yeah.
Could you just tell us about that? Because it's also a very interesting project. And I don't know that you've extrapolated that into Las Vegas in any way.
So Project 150 was another charity organization that we've given money to as Tech for Diversity. And Project 150, they're based here in Las Vegas, and it got started because there was 150 homeless kids that get up and go to school every day. And this person, I can't remember his name, but he started this organization. And it's just crazy to think about. I don't remember when it was incepted several years ago, but to think that at one high school, there's 150 homeless kids that gets up, go to school every day, and try their best. And so at that time, you know, with our board, we've always, one year we gave them like $25,000. And then one year we also give them, as part of our annual charity event for technology diversity, we ask everybody to bring a toy. So that year we gave all the toys, Nintendo Switches, Xboxes, everything to Project 150. So we literally had, I think, 3 buses full of toys and things.
Wonderful.
I think, Mr. Stump, that's wonderful work, and I appreciate your participation as a community partner. I will say I was a bit troubled by the July 23rd, 2019 disciplinary notice, and separate apart from the specific facts that ultimately appeared to have resulted, I was troubled by the fact that a number of people took the view that you weren't honest or forthright and forthcoming. And I wasn't there. And I don't know if this is something that's happened before, maybe somebody hasn't reported it, but what have you learned from that experience? And can you explain to me why everybody kept saying you weren't honest and forthright, other than you were embarrassed maybe? I'm just trying to understand, because it's everything else is so stellar about your background, and that is really a blemish for me that causes me some pause.
Yes, and I'll happy to answer that, Commissioner. So as part of the investigation, I answered all the questions. There was a lot of questions. I answered them, and they were generally consistent with the employee statement. And I think there were some inconsistencies in the statements between the employees. But that was my honest recollection of the events. So I don't know, but I've always been very forthcoming. I've been gaming my entire life. I understand the importance of participating in investigations and being truthful.
And sir, when you were out with this coworker, I understand she was a subordinate. Unless until you received this disciplinary notice, did you ever believe that you'd done something inappropriate that made her feel uncomfortable?
No, not at that
Looking of
time.
the face and touching her face?
Yeah, so no, and that's where part of the inconsistency was. I don't believe I did that. We were on a train. I may have bumped into her, but that was part of the inconsistencies.
And were there any statements you made that had sexual undertones that might have made her feel uncomfortable that you recall standing here today?
Yeah, so no, that's the other part, was that there was a statement that I said she was cute, and I think I said you have a cute hat, but I didn't call her cute. And then the other part was that
cute what?
A cute hat, because she was wearing a hat.
I thought you said something
I know
else.
I'm sorry.
Because I said, okay, we need to talk.
My apologies. No, sorry.
You are out of
Cute
touch.
hat.
Thank you.
Sorry.
It was the mask. I'm
Sorry
glad
about
I
that.
double checked. Please continue.
Yeah, and then one of them was watching a commercial, and it was a short commercial, and I said, well, because it was an encore commercial, and I said, oh, it should have been longer. And she construed that I made a sexual reference, like, hey, don't you think like things are longer? And I did not say that.
Well, thank you for being forthcoming. And I know these are not comfortable subjects, but I think they're important for us to delve into before I can comfortably recommend approval of your application.
I agree.
I appreciate your forthcomingness. And thank you for clarifying the word.
Yeah.
One word makes a difference.
Very important that you clarified.
Commissioner Solifrani.
Thank you. I had a question regarding your department's role in compliance. I saw that you had a direct report that might be involved with it.
Yes, I have a director of IT compliance.
And I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, what was your question again?
Director of IT compliance.
Yes.
I wasn't sure what the role was, what type of compliance they were involved in. So what is that person responsible?
She's responsible for Nevada Gaming Control Board compliance, in addition to SOX compliance and PCI compliance.
Okay. So how, and does she have a staff that works for her?
Yes.
Is that the only compliance that the property has? Ms.
No, there is a
No?
separate compliance,
Okay,
but this is just for technology. We're a very large IT organization and we have a lot of different systems.
So when you say she's responsible for like the gaming compliance, that's only on the IT side?
Correct, the IT.
Okay.
Yeah, the technology, yes.
Okay. And I had thought you had other people. That's why I
Yeah.
just wanted to understand what her role was. And I also wanted to commend you on, your community involvement. I think that's really important. Project 150 at Rancho High School, has helped a tremendous number of kids, but unfortunately there's a lot more that need help. So having people involved in the community is really important. So thank you for that. And also thank you for your explanation to Commissioner Brown's questions. I too was most troubled. Obviously I was troubled by the interactions and the suggestions that were underlying it, but I was most troubled by the conclusion that there was a failure of you being forthright with the people that were investigating it. And as you know, that's something that, is very important and something that would give me pause, but for your explanation. So thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Commissioner Cohen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, I share my colleagues' statements, and I thank you for your forthright comments regarding the incident. At least from where we've read it, we've heard your explanation. And if your employer didn't believe that this was a isolated instance and you signed off on the disciplinary, letter, you wouldn't be before us today. So that gives me comfort that, going forward, this isn't going to happen again and no one's going to be faced with, with these issues again. Other than that, and we call them hiccups, whatever you want to call them, but at least you acknowledge the hiccup, and you'll know how to, act, going forward. Other than that, you've got a wonderful background, and needless to say, your employer, your counsel, respect your abilities, and that's why you're here today. And I'd be prepared to support the application.
Thank you, Commissioner Cohen.
All right, very, very good, Vice Chair. Are you ready for a motion? Would you like to make a motion on that? I don't know if there's any other questions. I don't see any. I think we've asked all the questions that we needed to ask. Why don't you make a motion? You're ready to do so.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would move for approval of non-restricted agenda item number 4, the application for licensure as key executive as recommended by the Gaming Control Board.
Very good. Do we have any discussion on the motion? Not seeing any. I'd call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Good luck to you. Keep doing good work in the community. And Ms. Vermees, it's always nice to see you. Sometimes you're in front of us on really difficult ones, but I understand that because that seemed like the only ones that ever walked through the door to see me was the hard ones. So the easy ones, somebody else is always doing, but it's always good to see you.
Tell
in
you
front of
something,
us.
right? That I get the difficult ones.
Yeah, always good to see you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good luck to you.
Congratulations on your retirement.
Thank you. All right.
Miss
Ma-
Vermees is Grace Under Fire. That's my nickname for her. I haven't shared that with anyone except for today, but it's appropriate, I think.
I like it.
All right, let's go to the next item, Madam Secretary.
Your next item is non-restricted number 6, which is the application of Leisure Gaming Inc. to add, remove, or modify a condition. There's also the applications of Leisure Gaming Inc. to doing business as Leisure Gaming SRO, doing business at Love's Casino Ely, Love's Casino Fernley, and Love's Casino Wells for non-restricted gaming license at each location, and for Ryan Lee Albright for licensure as a key employee at each location. The recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval with the removal of a condition and the addition of the conditions as noted on the agenda.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Good morning, Mr. Gottwald. How are you?
I'm good. Good morning. Dennis Gottwald with the law firm of McDonald Carano. With me is Ryan Albright. Thank you for allowing him to appear in Carson City. Before I begin, I want to thank you for your service. I've been appearing before you pretty much most of my career since I became an attorney very late. It's been a privilege and an honor appearing before you, and I've come to really be excited about appearing before this board generally. And you're largely responsible for that. So I want to thank you for it. You'll be missed up there. But I hope to see you in the community. It's a small town. So
yes.
I wish you the best of luck, but we'll miss you.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate your kind remarks, and it's always a pleasure having you come down and appear in front of us. I appreciate that. You've done a great job for your people over the years. So having said that, you have a brief presentation, I'm sure.
Yes, I'd like permission for Ryan to give you a brief rundown of what the business is doing and a little bit about himself.
Very good. Good morning.
Good morning, Chairman Morgan and fellow commissioners. It's a real honor to be here this morning, particularly at your last meeting, Chairman Morgan. I haven't had a chance to get before this commission as often as the board over the years, but it's a pleasure to be here today. I gave a background about my history and about the acquisition that we're picking up the 3 properties up here. If you'd like, I can get into specifics again, or if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
I'd just like you to give a real brief little history on your involvement. I think you're up to about 6 locations, correct? I know you're in Wells, Fernley, Ely are the ones on before us today. So tell us a little bit about your involvement with those locations and what your responsibilities are.
Yes, sir. So we do have currently 6 locations. They're all small slots only casinos. 4 of the 6 are in pilot travel centers. The first property we picked up when Leisure Gaming was founded back in 1993. It was in Fernley. We started with 30 slot machines. And over the last 25 plus years, we've slowly picked up additional locations. We currently have roughly 390 slots and 6 locations. Like I said, 4 of the 6 are in pilot travel centers. The other 2 are called Roadhouse casinos, and they are not 24 hours. They're smaller. They're adjacent to Winger's Bar and Grills, one in Winnemucca and one in Elko. All of our existing properties are along I-80 between Fernley and Wendover. Our largest property is in Wendover. And so that fact makes it much more easy to manage them, being that they're all on several in the same town. We have 2 in Winnemucca, then 1 in Carlin, 1 in Elko, which are about 20 minutes apart. And so we feel comfortable with managing our current 6 properties. These 3 additional properties that we're looking to pick up are ones that we've been interested in for a while now, because they're right in what we would consider to be our wheelhouse. They're in truck stops, and over the last 25 years, we've learned a lot about how to operate small casinos and truck stops. So the 3 new properties are in Love's truck stops, 1 in Fernley, which is right across the street, more or less, from our current property in Fernley. Then the second property is in Wells, so it's right between our existing properties in Elko and in Wendover. And the third is in the Love's truck stop in Ely. And each property we're going to open with between 40 and 50 slot machines, which is what is currently there. These properties have been in operation. I think Ely's the newest property. That's a new truck stop that Love's built. I think Ely's been open for roughly 5 years. The other 2 properties in Wells and Fernley have been open, I believe, for 20 or more years. And so we're very excited to pick these properties up. We've had discussions with the current owner, Bill Rodriguez, and his company is the 4-Way Casino, I believe. He approached us over 12 years ago and was looking to sell. Just couldn't quite pull the trigger. He couldn't. I think he just couldn't let go of these properties and couldn't make a decision to sell. And now he has. I believe he's about 76 and he's looking to retire. And like I said, we're very excited to take these properties to another level. They currently only use Easy Pay which is the system that we had up until about 2016. The summer of 2016, we invested in the Konami Synchro system, and that system alone, along with a major marketing effort, has really taken our existing properties to the next level. We're going to install the Synchro system in these 3 new properties. It's a 1-card system. I believe Dottie's uses it at most of their properties, and it'll give us a real advantage moving forward to market and to create loyalty with our customers, and primarily to build a good local base of customers in these small towns where we feel that we compete very, very well. So our business is not just from truckers and from travelers, it's also from locals, and the system is a big part
All
of
right.
us getting that local base. So.
All right. Very good. I just wanted to hear a little bit about those locations, and I appreciate you sharing that with me. I only had really, at this point, a couple of questions. One question, you're going for general manager applications as a key employee. That's one of the applications that's before us today. My question deals with how much time do you devote in your week to going to these locations, since they're spread out some distance in these towns up north? How do you get around to them, and do you get around to them, and how often do you get around to them?
I do. I travel from Reno to Wendover and back roughly every 6 to 8 weeks. But each property has a manager. So each casino has a manager. Most of our managers, or several of our managers, have been with us 10 plus years, and so there's a real good communication chain where I'm in contact with them weekly, and they've learned the ropes and stayed with us, and I feel in a real comfortable position. And then several of our longstanding managers are going to be taking on a little bit more responsibility, certainly initially, and more than likely long term with these new properties. And the chain of command is such that even though it seems pretty difficult on the surface to manage 9 properties, or even the current 6 that we have, but I feel very comfortable in doing so, primarily because, like I said, they are slots only, they are small, and we have a very good team of managers underneath me that I feel very comfortable with. But I do go to each of the properties. I meet face to face with our managers roughly every 6 to 8 weeks.
Okay. How are you doing with the COVID and your protocols and preventing the spread in these different locations? What are you doing there to make sure that the machines and the locations are clean and that you're in compliance with all the different directives? Tell me a little bit about that and how you spread the word out through your chain of command.
Yeah, so since we were allowed to reopen on June 4th of last year, at that time we removed half of our slot chairs. We did not allow 2 patrons to play at machines next to each other. That was submitted for approval and was approved. And we have very regular cleaning. Our policy is that cashiers, and our properties again are small. So from the cashier cage, you can see the entire floor at each of our properties. And as a customer gets up, we clean that machine. We have a antimicrobial, it's a solution that we've come up with after some research that is not only really effective at sanitizing, but also doesn't damage the slot machine screens or button decks or anything like that. And so we clean as customers move from machine to machine. Obviously, when we're at busier times, that becomes more difficult, but we, at minimum, have a cleaning log that we enforce. Cashiers have to sign off on that. At minimum, every 2 hours, even in busy times, that they have to go through and clean every slot machine on the floor. And that's, like I said, it's a pretty thorough process of spraying down the screens, the button decks, letting the solution stay on the games for 30 seconds and then wiping them down.
All right, very good.
Clean casinos is something that's been one of our philosophies for 20 years. You know, it's very, very important to how we do business, and we have always asked a lot of our cashiers as far as cleaning goes. And but again, with small properties, it's not too taxing on them.
All right, very good. And what is the source of you acquiring slot machines for these different locations?
Well, part of the purchase was that all of the existing slot machines in these locations were included in the purchase. But over half of them are not games that would be ones that we'd want to use moving forward. They're dated, old, performance-wise. We know over our years of experience that they are not going to do well. So we have a combination of purchasing some refurbished games, purchasing some new games, and then adding some participation games. The other thing that we had to do with each of the 3 properties is increase the slot mix. Currently, the current owner only has 2 different slot manufacturers, and that's just not enough in today's day and age to attract a customer base. So we're going up to 5 or possibly 6 manufacturers. That's what we have at our current 6 properties. And so we had to remove several of the existing games at each property in order to put our best foot forward and provide the mix that we need going forward.
All right, very good. Thank you. I didn't have any other questions for you at this time. Let me turn it over to the commission and see Vice Chair Cohen. Did you have some questions?
Yes, sir. First of all, thank you for appearing for us today. I just wanted to walk through the conditions that have been recommended by the Game Control Board. I think they're more than fair. And I just want to specifically get your affirmation that you're in agreement and your council's in agreement and you've gone through them. The first one, I'm going to read it, which could be part of a motion if my fellow commissioners deem it appropriate. Upon the addition or removal of any general manager position, a new organization chart must be submitted and administratively approved by the NGC chair or the chair's designee. Further, no general manager may supervise more than 9 locations without administrative approval of the NGCB chair or the chair's designee. Now, first of all, do you agree with, you could follow that recommendation?
Yes, Commissioner Gibson, excuse me, Commissioner Cohen. Yes, sir.
I've been called. Okay, and 9 is stretching it to the outer boundary. So, and I think your explanation why you believe you can handle it, is appropriate for now. And then the board has further recommended conditioning to apply to leisure gaming, DBA leisure gaming, SRO, DBA at Love's Casino Ely. And no reason for me to walk through, but you acknowledge that the number of slot machines will be limited in those locations to 40, correct?
That's correct.
For now, that's correct.
And the surveillance system, agree with that recommendation?
Yes, sir. Yeah,
okay.
We're replacing the surveillance system so that it's a system that matches our other 6 properties. Yes, sir. Our coverage will be sufficient. Sure.
And as to the Fernley property, the number of slot machines will be limited to 50 there. You affirm your agreement with that condition?
Yes, that's what we look to open with. I would anticipate there's room to add, roughly 10 additional machines, and as business warrants, and we feel that it could be warranted fairly quickly, that we'd like to increase the number if we can.
we'll seek administrative approval to do so before they're added.
Thank you, Mr. Gutwald. And then just the last thing, I just wanted to make sure that, you understand as to Love's Casino Wells, the number of slot machines will be limited to 50. And you agree with that recommendation?
Yes. Yes, again, same. I think that we can fit a few more machines in there as business warrants after we're in operation. But we will seek approval prior to doing that.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Commissioner Brown?
Thank you. Just briefly, are there any plans to have food and beverage? Is my understanding right now it's just slots?
So we, no, we will not, we do not have a bar at any of the 3 properties. At 2 of the 3, we would plan to just serve comp beer and wine, not sold. And it would have to be to paying customers. At 2 of our existing properties, we do that at the Roadhouse casinos, and at the 2 of the 3 properties that we are acquiring, that's what they currently do.
Okay.
So we didn't want to make any drastic changes and potentially lose any of the customers that are the base of these properties right now.
Yep, that makes perfect sense. And sir, I am impressed with your background. You've been a CPA since '97. You have years and years, about 10 years of real estate experience, and now in the gaming. So I think it's really conducive to what you're doing now. And I'm confident, based on your very competent presentation today, that you will be just fine operating, even though 9 sounds like a lot. I do understand from your presentation before the board that it was between 5 to 7 employees, and the slots range from 44 to 92. And it seems like you've created a solid bench with your cashiers and your team, and that you've groomed them well to step into like a regional management position, to the extent you don't spread yourself too thin with all of these different locations. So I think you'll do just fine based on what I've heard, but you probably won't get a lot of sleep. So we look forward to your growth and expansion. Thank you, and good luck.
Thank you very much.
I have no further questions.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Brown. Any other questions?
I just had a brief question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes,
Thank you.
Commissioner Solz-Rainey, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Albright, for being here and for your presentation. I had a quick question regarding your projections. It looks like they're real favorable, and I understand the basis for the increased revenue projections. It looks like you're also projecting your expenses to go down pretty significantly. What's the main reason for that?
Are you looking in comparison to the existing operator, or?
Yes, I think the comparisons that we were provided were from 2019 to now, to your projections for the upcoming year.
Okay, well, we based our projections for both revenue and expenses off of our existing properties, because we felt much more comfortable with using those numbers because they're such similar properties in size and things like that, that we felt, again, more comfortable using projections based on our current properties versus using projections from the current operator. I believe that he has some expenses that would not carry forward. I'm not real sure if it's corporate salaries or some other layers of expenses. And then the other obvious other savings is that he just has 3 and has some of the more corporate expenses spread over 3. We currently have 6, and we're going to go up to 9. So we can spread some of our corporate costs and general expenses over 9 properties instead of 3. So, but again, we felt more comfortable with using our own numbers, and we were conservative. The numbers for our projections are less than what our current properties are doing, because we do feel that it'll take at least 12 to 18 months to get these properties up to the level that we'd like to get them to, the level of our current properties that we run.
Okay, thank you. The change was just so drastic at 2 of the locations. It looked like Fernley and Wells were going down almost 50%. So I wanted to just make sure that that decrease wasn't attributable to decreases in staff or decreases in either gaming staff or the staff that cleans these machines and that gives attention to the property. And it doesn't sound like it is. It sounds like it's more at the corporate level. So
It's
that makes
not. Yeah, as a
sense.
matter of fact, we're keeping it appears that we're going to be keeping all of the current staff, possible exception of one or two. One manager in Wells has let us know she's not going to stay on with us. We've already found what appears to be a good replacement, but the rest of the staff will remain the same as what's currently at these properties, and it's the same as our existing properties. Most shifts are one cashier, but on promotions, when we have promotions, we'll go up to two. And the management is also on staff at each location for backup.
And it looked like your management had been pretty stable. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah, we
Okay.
have had a turnover in Fernley at our pilot casino in Fernley, but our current manager there has been with us for about 2.5 years, and that's about as short of 10 years we have. Our other managers are anywhere from 5 to 20 years that they've been with us.
That's great because I'm sure it's a tough market. I don't have any further questions, Mr. Chair. Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you.
And thank you, Mr. Albright, for your responses.
All right, do we have any other questions? And Mr. Gotwald, just so I understand the conditions as recommended by the Gaming Control Board, you're fine with those with your client?
They're very acceptable.
All right, thank you. We're ready for a motion if anybody'd like to make one. Commissioner
happy to make-
Solis Rainey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would move for approval of non-restricted item number 6 as read into the record by Madam Secretary and as recommended by the Gaming Control Board.
Very good. We have a motion and not seeing any discussion. We're ready for a vote. I'll call for the vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries.
Thank you, and thank you for your service for the last 14
Thank you.
years.
Thank you. It's always good to see you. All right, Madam
Thank you.
Secretary. Thank you. All right.
That brings us to our restricted items held up for discussion. First item is restricted number 1, which the applications of Ham Dogs Inc. for a transfer of interest and Gregor Sabalian for licensure as an officer, director, and shareholder. The recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval.
Okay, very good. Do we have an applicant? All right, I see two gentlemen at the stand. Could you identify yourselves on the record?
Yes, hi, I'm Gregory Sayabalian. And I'm Lawrence Samuels.
Okay, very good. Do we have Mr. Mills anywhere? Morning, Mr. Mills.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
I appreciate you joining us. I know you're under restricted kind of a time frame, and it's good to see you here. This shouldn't take really that long. I had a couple of questions. Did you have any presentation you want to make, or would you like me just to ask a few questions?
Please, questions are just fine, sir.
All right, very good. My question, Mr. Mills, first of all, I watched you at the board meeting, and I got my arms around, where you were situated in this and the reasons why. And, we had two areas of concern or of interest. Basically was the areas concerning not notifying the board and the state when changes in management occurred and new people came and left. So I got all that. I saw your explanations, and I really don't need to re-plow that ground. I was interested in basically having you on the record. If in fact this is approved as recommended by the Gaming Control Board, we're going to see you completely out of this location, correct?
Absolutely, yes.
And you'll have no interest whatsoever. You'll have no direction to anybody there. You'll not be involved in any way, shape, or form at this location, correct?
Correct.
Okay, very good. Now, Gregory Sayabalan, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right.
Close.
Oh, go ahead and tell me how to pronounce it correctly.
Sayabalian.
Okay. Mr. Sayabalian, you had earlier been involved in this location, correct?
Yes, sir. I opened it in '94.
Okay, so you're familiar with the location, you're familiar with Mr. Mills, and you're also familiar with the areas of concern as raised by the board, correct?
I am, yes.
Okay. What kind of assurances can you give me that if we approve this and you end up with the shares of Mr. Mills, that we're not going to have any follow-up type of misconduct involving not reporting to the board and the commission. Tell me a
Oh,
little bit about how you're going to make sure that doesn't happen.
Well, I'll take the steps immediately once I'm approved to correct all licensing and paperwork that might have been improperly applied for. So we've gone over all the paperwork that needs to be straightened out. I think we got most of it done. And when I was running and opened the place 20 years ago, I didn't have any of these problems. I'm very knowledgeable and ask the right questions to the right people when needed. So I don't think I'll have any problem getting this back to where it should be.
Okay. Do you have an attorney that you use for your gaming matters? I notice you don't have one here today, right?
No, I don't use one. I mean,
Uh-huh.
if I needed one for specific reasons, I would get one, but I didn't think I would need one for this.
All right. Well, you may want to in the future, in order to protect your investment, seek counsel on things that involve gaming, so nothing falls through the cracks. I would hate to see you come in front of us on a disciplinary complaint on down the road because you didn't have advice of counsel and you went ahead and did something that ran cross-grained to our regulations and our laws and rules here on gaming. That'd be a shame, wouldn't it, if you somehow got the license and you're running the place and you didn't do your homework and didn't report to gaming, that you end up not being in business anymore. You understand how that works,
Oh,
right?
absolutely. I do. Yeah. We use Golden Gaming as our route operator. And they do have lawyers and I can call them and ask questions, but we know that this has been a serious matter and I'm ready to jump on it, get everything back the way it should be.
Right. And you understand that old saying, it's better to ask for permission than beg for forgiveness, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Well, it's always good to ask. If you don't know, make sure you ask. We have
I'll
very
be asking a
competent
lot of
people on
questions.
staff here that can answer any question involving gaming you may have so that you don't run afoul and come back in front of us on a disciplinary matter because you didn't pay attention to what's required by the state gaming authorities, right?
Absolutely. I'll be in contact with the personnel here at the Gaming Control Board, asking any questions and making sure I have all my T's crossed and my I's dotted.
All right. Well, very good. I don't have any other questions. Let me see if my fellow commissioners have any questions for you and or a motion. I don't see any on the left, Commissioner. All right. Do we have a motion?
I'm happy to make a motion, Mr. Chair.
All right,
I
Commissioner.
would move for
Swain.
approval of restricted item number 1 as read into the record by Madam Secretary and recommended by the Gaming Control.
Very good. We have a motion made. Is there any discussion on the motion? Not seeing any. I call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I wish you the very best, and I hope you pay attention to our conversation we had a little while ago and going forward. We hope this location makes it, but we also must mandate and require that the location is in compliance with all gaming laws, regulations, and statutes. If you're going to be in gaming, you got to pay attention to what you're doing. Okay? All right. Have a good day and good luck to you all. And Mr. Mills, good luck to you and going forward.
Thank you. You as well, sir.
Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you. All right. Next item.
Next item is restricted number 4, which are the applications of Amea Corp., Gavin Corp., GS Sandahu Corp., and Sohol Corp. For licensure to receive a percentage of gaming revenue from Sartini Gaming LLC at the locations as noted on the agenda, and the applications of Sandeep Kaur for licensure as sole officer, director, and shareholder as noted on the agenda. The recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval.
All right. Very good. I see Mr. Donato. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, Madam Secretary, Jeff Donato here of Argentum. Joining us today in Carson City is the applicant, Mrs. Carr. Before we start, I'd like to say I appreciate all the service you've done for this gaming industry. I've been fortunate enough to witness you started that chair and kind of work your way towards the middle. So you'll be truly missed. And I'm glad I be here today to be able to see you last day. So
Well, thank you for your comments. I appreciate it. And it's always a pleasure whenever you'd appear in front of us. You always did a spectacular job for your clients. You had some close ones, but it was pretty good.
Appreciate
Pretty good.
that.
Yep, yep. They chose the right man. So in any event, go ahead and just tell us a little bit about Ms. Carr. I know she's never been licensed before. We don't have any areas of concern with her that I saw. I just wanted to be able to get a look at her and have her get a look at us and see what's going on here, and tell us just briefly a little bit, if she will, about her history and what she intends to do upon approval here.
Sure. So the brief explanation on the applications. She acquired her fourth location, franchised her fourth 7-Eleven store in July of 2020. As part of that application, she decided to share in the gaming revenue and trigger the investigation process. She had 3 other stores that she was currently operating at that time. So as part of the application to share in revenue, she decided to do all 4 stores at the same time. All 4 stores are currently operating. They all have gaming. They're all on space lease right now. And if approved today, those agreements would trigger the share in revenue provision, and it would allow her to share in revenue at all 4 of those locations. And with that, I will allow Mrs. Carr to provide some information about herself.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Donato. Good morning, Mrs. Carr. How are you?
Good morning. I'm good. How are you guys?
Good, doing good. Tell us a little bit about your history. And like I said, we don't have any concerns with you going in here, but we wanted to meet you and see what you had to say and what you intend on doing.
Sure. So I want to talk a little bit. I graduated from Natomas High School in Sacramento, and then I was working at Sacramento International Airport as a cashier. I worked my way up to supervisor, and then a couple of years later, I was promoted to assistant manager. I worked there for about 8 years. When I had the opportunity to have my own business back in 2012. And I took that opportunity and moved out here in Reno, Nevada, and took over my first store, store number 22523. And I got married back in 2013. And then I had to move back to California, and my brother was running the store for me. And then I decided to move back to Reno with my family, with my husband, and franchise another store. That another opportunity that I had back in 2016. That's when I franchised my second store. And then I had my kids in 2019. I took over my third store. And then in 2020, I took over my fourth store, and I've been in 7-Eleven since 2012. I had some college. I took classes at American Urban College, but then I took private classes online and took my business diploma there.
All right, very good. I didn't have any follow-up questions. I do thank you for coming down here today. Let me see if my commissioners have any questions for you or Mr. Donato. Commissioner Brown.
How are you this morning?
I'm good. How are you?
Thank you for appearing before us today. In terms of the 4 locations, how do you spend your time? I understand that the maximum driving between any of the locations is about 16 minutes tops. Could you describe that for us briefly?
Sure. So I spent about, at least I go to the stores every day, at least 5 times a week. And I've spent like 2 to 3 hours, depending on how much help this store needs at every location. And I just, because my house is really close to one of the locations, so I start from there and go from there to all the locations and spend time with my managers at each location to see what they need help with. And I usually go to the stores at least 5 times a week.
Thank you for that response, Ms. Carr. And I just wanted to commend you for your hard work and tenacity. You are now a business owner. Now you have 4 businesses in different locations, and it is commendable to see hard work and tenacity pay off. So congratulations on your accomplishments. And I envision you won't stop here, which is not a bad thing.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have
All
no
right.
questions and no reservations.
Thank you, Commissioner Brown. Any other questions? I guess we're ready for a motion.
I'm prepared to make a motion, Chairman Moran.
Yes, please do.
I move for approval of restricted item number 4 as recommended by the Gaming Control Board and is read into the record by Madam Secretary.
Very good. Not seeing any discussion on the motion. I call for the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Matter passes. Good luck to you, Ms. Carr. Mr. Donato,
you.
always good seeing you out there.
Good to see you, and you'll be truly missed. And just to give a moment to say thank you to Agent McElhaney for all her help on the application as well.
Very good. Good job. Thank you. All right, Madam Secretary, our last restricted item for today.
Your last restricted item is restriction number 12, which is the application of Winners Gaming Inc. doing business at Johnson Lane General Store for restricted gaming license. The recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval with the condition as noted on the agenda.
All right, good morning.
Good morning, Chairman Moran, members of the commission, Madam Secretary, members and staff of the board. Dan Reeser with the law firm of Fenimore. Pleased to be before you today on behalf of the applicant Winners Gaming Inc. We'd like to again thank Chief Labadie for the professionalism and expedited processing of the application, and we particularly appreciate Deputy Chief Hoffman's and Agent Finlanson's work on the matter.
They're the best, aren't they?
They are. They're the best in the world, and not just those, but all of the agents.
Absolutely.
Also appreciate the waiver of appearance on behalf of Robert A. Cashel Jr. By way of just framing the application for you, this is WGI's 53rd location in Northern Nevada, and will take the number of machines in service to over 350. As you undoubtedly saw in the transcript of the proceedings before the board, pages 3 through 6 dealt with the application. The board unanimously recommended approval, found the grandfather to be in place. And then at page 7 through 19, we had a perhaps robust discussion of the historic issues that were surrounding this.
And that's where I want to interrupt you.
Okay.
And that's why you're here, and I waived your client, because I wanted to hear from you in the following areas. I wanted you to tell me, since the Gaming Commission sets policy in the state and for everybody, and we have the distinction between incidental, primary, and grandfather. We have those three little concepts running through here. And historically, without taking a whole lot of time, I wanted you on the record to tell me your concept of primary incidental uses and how a grandfather may or may not be involved in that, and then bring it all the way around to fuel purchases.
Okay.
Okay, can you do that for me?
I will attempt to do that, Chair.
Okay.
Moran. But I want to frame this by first, I don't believe that this has anything to do with my applicant. I think my applicant clearly has satisfied many, many times the standards under 463-170 for licensing probity, and that the location is suitable for gaming under Reg 3, and that pursuant to 3015, there is a grandfather protection of the 15 devices here. So with that,
you're safely on base with that.
Great. So I think to try to give a quick historical background to this, in July of 1985, the Nevada legislature enacted what is subsection 1 of NRS 463-161. And that prescribed the restriction that a license for an establishment or operation of gaming devices is incidental to the primary business could only be held by one of two categories of persons, either the primary business holder or a slot route operator. And in this case, it would be a slot route operator. The incidental language taken and placed into 161 at that time was in regulation 4030 and had been, this is my recollection, since the mid-70s. Mid-60s, that regulation provided the 15 machine limit for restricted, and then in the mid-70s, as my recollection goes, and I don't know that I could establish this without access to central files. I believe in mid-70s, the incidental test was applied without statutory authority. That was not part of the statutory scheme. The board did that, I believe, on recommendation of the commission, that a regulation be adopted under 463-150, governing the commission's power over classifying licenses. Notably, the definition of restricted licensee didn't include incidental to the primary business until 1989. And that was added by the 1989 legislature. And we didn't get into this before the commission because we just didn't go down this road. But I want to give, to your point, is what is incidental, what this is about. That incidental test was debated in the 1989 legislature and that was the real focus of an effort by the Nevada Resort Association, led by my former partner, Robert Fess, and opposed by the Nevada Coin-Operated Machine Operators Association, represented by Jim Avans. Importantly, in that legislation, Mr. Fess began with defining what was intended by incidental. And for those of you, I know you know, but for the record, Mr. Fess had been former executive secretary of the commission during the time period the original rules were applied. And so I take great solace, not only because of my love for my former partner, but also his historical knowledge. He said that term meant, namely, quote, someone who is in a business for a purpose other than gaming, who might use slot machines as incidental to his business to bring in added revenue. That is the singular, end quote, that is the singular legislative history on what incidental meant. It is for that reason that I indicated to the board that my belief is that incidental is a qualitative standard, not a quantitative standard. I do understand fast forwarding to regulation 3015. Today, the commission and the board use a number of quantitative standards if it needs to, when the presumptions created in Reg 3015 don't apply. The commission in 1990 adopted changes to 3015 based on that legislation. And importantly, that is when the 7-device presumption was created for convenience stores. The purpose of which was, if you have a convenience store, you're going to get 7 devices. You don't have to make any showing of what is or isn't incidental. We're going to just deem it to be that way. As today, 4 is for a liquor store, or 15 is for a grocery store. And I think the commission wisely did that to cut to the chase, and not have to have 2-hour hearings over what is incidental or not. But I think also important is that in that regulation in subsection 3E, the commission created a grandfather, and that right was to preserve the status quo for businesses at the number of devices then in operation in the primary business. If that primary business did not substantially change, Reg 3015 has provisions today to make sure that if you're going to substantially change, you give notice to the regulator. And those grandfather rights have been retained in subsequent amendments to Regulation 3015, albeit in different language. So incidental, I believe, means that there's 2 buckets of revenue, or 2 buckets of expense, or 2 buckets of, 2 classifications. There's the gaming and the non-gaming. To your point, Commissioner, on gasoline sales, non-gasoline sales. Gasoline sales are obviously part of the primary business. The person has made substantial investment, typically to get a franchise from a national gasoline wholesaler, and gasoline is a significant part of that business model for a convenience store. you don't have to get to the issue for a location that doesn't have a grandfather because it's a 7-machine presumption. Now, obviously, that presumption can be challenged through an application process before the board and commission, where you bring, and I've done this on behalf of convenience store operators, to get additional machines beyond the 7 devices, where they establish that the revenue of the non-gaming portion of their business is substantial, and they're not really a slot arcade, which is what we're trying to prevent here, I think. So I think I don't think I could define incidental, and I shouldn't define incidental different than Mr. Fest told the legislature at the time that they passed that as part of the statutory scheme defining what is a restricted licensee. The primary business is whatever the business owner brings to you as their primary non-gaming business. And if they are satisfied with the presumption applies and you move forward. If they're not satisfied with the presumption, they're going to have to present a case to you. But I think it's important to look at the history of the locations, because if they have, as this location has, a long-standing vested right that runs with the land for that number of machines, that should be recognized by the commission. I hope that
No,
answers.
you did what I wanted to see happen, and that was just to make the record clear on the distinction between primary and incidental, and you've done that, and the legislative history was important, and I appreciate you doing that. I wanted to call time out here for a minute and ask my attorney, Ms. Breinig, if she had anything on the record she cared to add at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think for the purposes of the application before you today, I think the commission can consider some or all of the factors that are set forth in Reg 3015 subsection 2 in addition to the facts provided by the board to make a determination whether the requested number of machines will be incidental to the primary business here.
All right, very good. Thank you. All right, I didn't have any more questions, and I appreciate you coming down here today and making a record on that. I'm going to turn to my fellow commissioners and see if they have any questions or a motion to follow the recommendation of the board.
I just really enjoyed that presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Chair. Excuse me, Commissioner Brown.
Really not the chair.
All
I'm the newbie.
Commissioner Salzman, no? Commissioner Cohen? All right. Do we have a motion?
Sure.
Commissioner Salzman.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move for approval of restricted item number 12 as read into the record and recommended by the Game Control Board.
Very good. Thank you, Commissioner. Any discussion? Not seeing any. I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Good luck to you, Mr. Reeser. It's good to see you. And thank you for sharing some of that on the record today.
Certainly, if I might, Chairman Moran, a point of personal privilege before I leave the podium. On behalf of my partners at Fenimore, we sincerely appreciate your longstanding service, not only with the commission, but in other roles on behalf of the people of the state of Nevada. On behalf of myself personally, you are quintessentially the model that the Nevada legislature intended when it created the commission in 1959. And that was to have a community body that oversaw ultimately who got licensed and who should be in the industry, so that our neighborhoods, our communities, and our economy would have as its ultimate representatives people who were in different walks of life, not to in any way diminish the law enforcement duties of the board, but to bring that very special talent to bear on the decision. And in your service with the commission, you have always demonstrated that as your first and foremost, and we appreciate that very much and wish you the best of luck.
Thank you. I'm going to miss seeing you in front of us. You bring so much to our meetings, and I really appreciate all you do. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
All right, Madam Secretary, I think that's it for that part.
That is correct. That brings us to your complaint.
Okay,
And next for your consideration, you have a stipulation for settlement and order settling the complaint filed in the matter of the Nevada Gaming Control Board versus Bet M. Larson, 100% owner of Timbers, case number 21-03.
okay. We have a Deputy Attorney General on that.
Yes.
Oh,
Good
yes.
morning, just barely, or maybe it's now afternoon. Chair Moran, members of the commission, Madam Secretary, members of the board. For the record, I am John McKellar with the Attorney General's office. I believe Ms. Larson has representatives present in Carson City today. If you would like them to introduce themselves before I move on.
Very good. And I waived Ms. Larson from appearing today on this for medical reasons. All right. So we have who do we have here besides yourself? Put on the record.
Mr. Chair, this is Chris McKenzie with the Allison McKenzie Law Firm in Carson City. We appreciate the way you provided Carson for us to appear remotely. I have with me her daughter, Cheryl Webster, and her husband, Michael Van Overbeek. We're available for any questions or concerns you might have.
Okay. I see that you entered into a stipulation, and I guess it's up to us to decide whether or not we want to go with that. So let me.
And Mr. Chair, if you like, I do have more of the presentation. I was just pausing so that they could introduce
Okay.
themselves.
All right, Mr. McCullough, fine. That would be good. Go ahead and take us through what we're dealing with here on the complaint and the settlement.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a stipulation for your consideration that settles a complaint filed by the board against Betty Larson, owner of the Timbers, a restricted gaming licensee. This is a second complaint concerning employees and patrons of the Timbers not wearing face coverings and not social distancing as required by emergency directives in place at the time of the violations. The first complaint was settled for a $5,000 fine and a key employee condition. The current complaint also includes a few items discovered during investigation of the complaint. Count 2 relates to key employee applications which were filed in relation to a new entity which has filed an application for gaming license at respondent's location instead of being filed in relation to the current license. Counts 3 and 4 relate to respondent transferring her interest into an LLC owned by her without filing applications for the transfer. Count 5 relates to respondents' transfers of the land of the location without notifying the board of the landowner changes. The transfers were to groups or entities owned in whole or in part by respondent. Through the settlement, respondent admits to the violations as alleged in the complaint. The settlement resolves the complaint by, first, respondent agreeing to pay a $10,000 fine. Second, respondent agreeing to add regulatory compliance seminar language to the key employee condition. Respondent now has key employee applications on file in relation to the current license, and those applicants have fulfilled the regulatory compliance seminar requirements. And 3, respondent has also agreed to move the timetable up on her estate planning and surrender her current license at the end of January. The applications for this are presently scheduled for January. If approved, these applications should ensure there is more owner supervision and control over the location. That is my presentation on this issue for you today. If the commission has any questions, I would be happy to answer them. Otherwise, I ask the commission to approve the stipulation for settlement. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McCall. I'm glad you covered that last point on the suspension of the license and the time frame. In the next paragraph, or next line of that same paragraph, at item number 5, it indicates language that the respondent's license is deemed surrendered to not later than 11:59 on July 30th, 2022. How does that date jive with the January 31, 2022 above. So we got the January 31 date, and then we have the July 30th date that the board chair can extend. So I was curious about how that's going to trigger and what that means.
Okay, so absent any action, the effective date of the surrender is January 31st, 2022. The administrative extension by the board chair is in place just in case the applications presently scheduled for January do not go forward in January. It would give some additional time in which to keep this license active and the location open.
Okay, very good. Thank you for clarifying that for me. I didn't have any questions, further questions for you, Mr. McCullough. Let me see if my fellow commissioners have any. I don't see any. Thank you. If you could just stand by and let's hear from the respondent and their counsel, Mr. McKenzie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want you to know that our client does take this very seriously. That legacy planning is fully in place. We've submitted innumerable applications to bring that process forward. And as Mr. McKellar points out, we asked for that little bit of buffer on the January 31 in case something, the hiccup that Commissioner Cohen had brought up before, a potential hiccup in the application process, should it be necessary to request an extension, should that process be delayed for whatever reason on our side or through the application process. So just so you know, the fine has been tendered. The key, as Mr. McKellar pointed out, the key employee application filing's been done, the training's been done. They are fully engaged in this. They run a good shop. They've had some unfortunate situations as with the difficulties that COVID has presented to all of us. We appreciate your consideration of this and Mr. McKellar's work to get this resolved. And the folks in your application department at the gaming control, Mark Robertson in particular, we appreciate his help in untangling this knot. And I believe we're on the right process to do appropriate legacy planning and get this license in good shape. The business moving.
Okay. I haven't seen you in quite a while, Mr. McKenzie, and I appreciate your presentation. I do not have any difficulty with the stipulation of settlement. I'm good personally with the $10,000 fine and the surrender of the license as outlined by Mr. McCullough. So let me see if my fellow commissioners have some questions. I see Commissioner Brown has a question or two. So
Thank you. Just briefly, Chair Moran, if I may beg your indulgence. I understand that on May 5th, 2021, there was an investigator on site and observed 20 to 30 patrons without masks, and 3 people behind the bar who were employed did not have masks. And when photographs were taken, I think one of the employees covered his or her nose and mouth. Has there been any training implemented, notwithstanding the tender of the $10,000 fine, to ensure future compliance, understanding, maybe apathy, so that we don't have these issues forward-going? Has anything been done and implemented on an educational level, training level, in any way, shape, or form, so we can have some assurance so I can support this stipulation, sir?
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Chair, if I may respond to Commissioner Brown's question. Yes, there have been protocols put in place that employee training has even been included in their employment agreements to following the COVID protocols. There's the cleaning protocol put in place. They realized that this was not acceptable, and they've really stepped up their game. It is even to the point where it's impacted their business somewhat in terms of how strictly they're enforcing this. So it is something that they take very, very seriously, and there has been a full implementation of a program to prevent that happening.
Thank you, sir. I'm prepared to move forward unless anybody else has any questions.
Very good, Commissioner Brown. Commissioner Solis-Rainey. All right. Well, then, do we have a motion?
Chair Moran, I move for approval of the stipulation settlement and order to be executed by you, Chairman Moran, pursuant to the complaint on file in this matter.
Okay, very good. We have a motion made. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you very much, Mr. McCullough, and thank you, Mr. McKenzie. It's always good to see you both, and we have approved the stipulation for settlement and order accordingly.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I
Thank
may,
you.
Chris McKenzie
Yes.
against the record. I had the fortunate opportunity to serve with you on the Wildlife Commission for many years. I really appreciate all your service to the state. You've been a great leader. I learned from you serving with you on the Wildlife Commission, and I appreciate all your service. And I just want to say, hope to see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. And I always enjoyed serving on the Wildlife Commission with you as well. I think the last time we went out in the field together was going up there to look at the ducks up there at the place up north where a lot of duck hunting was going on. And maybe we can get together one day up there again and do some of that.
I'd appreciate that. Thank
you. Take care. All right, Madam Secretary.
Next item on your agenda, you have one gaming employee registration appeal for your consideration pursuant to NRS 463.335. That item is Ginny Fesser.
All right. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you, Mr. Chairman, and the Commission. My name is Michael Horvath. I work at the Draskowitz Law Group. I represent Ms. Fesser. This is our, we're coming here today to see if we can get something worked out with her gaming registration. We did have a hearing previously with the board that they did revoke her gaming registration. She was employed at the Bellagio for, I believe, 7 years. She's been in gaming for 15 years total. She's been in Nevada for about 16 years. She did come here from Korea. There was an incident about comps at, there was another party involved, and Ms. Fesser did speak to someone at the board previously, and then before we had our hearing. At the time we had the hearing, my firm was got retained for 2 matters to handle the gaming issue as well as things with the state for potential criminal charges. At that time, we needed to do some further investigation, which I have the answers for today. We have reached out to the district attorney's office in screening and in their screening department, as well as any pending cases. There is nothing from Ms. Fesser. From the report that was there, that was given, they stated that they had submitted things to the district attorney's office back in early 2020. And as of today, they do not have anything that they will be going forward on. That was made representations to me when I spoke with them. Like I said, Ms. Fesser has been in gaming for 15 years, no incident. She doesn't have a criminal history. She has 3 kids. They range from 15 to 7 years old that she provides for. She was previously married. She is now currently divorced. She is taking care of her children. She has not been in gaming since this incident had happened due to the fact of everything that was going on. Today I would ask, I come from the commission asking for basically mercy at this point because at the board hearing, they did revoke her gaming registration. I would be asking that under NRS 463.335 and under section 13, the commission has a chance or is able to either reverse or modify. I understand reversal may not be the appropriate, but modify under any kind of terms that they would seem fit. This did deal with comps. Ms. Fesser, after lengthy discussions with her, is willing to make any party whole, as well as undergo anything that this commission would deem necessary for her to remain in gaming. She is 45 years old. She, like I said, she has been here. She's been doing gaming for these 15 years. And, you know, it's all she knows to how to provide for her family at this point. So she's hoping that she can get a second chance with any conditions. She understands it is a privilege to work in gaming, as well as an honor to be a part of the Nevada gaming community, as well as because we are a world-renowned town, and she understands that coming from Korea, she knew of everything here in Las Vegas, and that's what she wanted to do. So at this point, if you have any questions or any concerns, I would answer those. And Ms. Fesser's native language is not English. So that's why if you have questions for her and she whispers over to me, or you want to hear from her, that's fine.
Okay, so she's prepared to give a statement today?
Yes. Well, I told her because of her the language barrier and stuff like that, that if you guys had any questions, I spent numerous hours with her in preparation for this, and I'm prepared to speak on her behalf. Her being obviously nervous and the language barrier, she was scared that she may mess something up. So,
all right. So if I understand you right, she was charged. I understand, she was arrested for conspiracy to commit embezzlement, a felony.
In fact, correct that she was never arrested, and she has not
Never
been
arrested.
charged. And there are no pending charges. There's no pending case, and there's no pending investigation going on. Because, like I said, I reached out to the district attorney's office to see if any active cases, as well as the screening department. That's when something is submitted to the district attorney's office, they do further investigation, whether that's follow-ups, interviews, or anything, and they have nothing from Ms. Fesser.
Okay. So if I understand you right, charges did not come down on a conspiracy to commit embezzlement, a felony, and charges did not come down yet on a conspiracy to commit unlawful acts regarding computers. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And I understand that you have been in contact with the district attorney's office, and did they drop the case, or is they not going forward with the prosecution?
As of right now, there's the prosecution, there's no open case, so I can't talk to a specific prosecutor on this. So how we do this in our office is we reach out to the screening department, the district attorney's office. Like I said, when something is filed by either Metro or a body, they go in and do further investigation. The timing of this, since I believe happened in the beginning of last year, is when they followed through with this report and submitted. I was informed by the screening department that they will not be going forward with any more investigation on this matter.
Okay. And was she discharged from the Bellagio where she was a dealer?
I believe she did resign due to the fact of what was going on, because she wanted to see what the pendency or what the outcome of this bully was. And she did speak to the Bellagio when they did talk to her, and she spoke as much as she could. She was not, when she spoke with them, she told them what was going on. And then when she got our office involved for the board hearing, that's when I told her to direct communications towards our office before I'd been able to reach out to the district attorney's office.
Okay. And at the time that she was allegedly engaged in misconduct at her place of work at Bellagio, she was a dealer there, correct?
Correct.
And her husband was working there?
He worked at the Cosmopolitan, and that is now her ex-husband.
Okay.
And if I just may, I know that in the report by the board and by the examiner that had said at the end of the conclusion that one of the things that in your decision and when you guys decide this, that showing that she's not the same person that she was then, and she is taking great lengths to distance herself from any things that could get her into potential trouble, as well as going to the lengths of getting divorced.
Well, as she stands here before us here today, counsel, is it her contention that she did not conspire to improperly receive comps at a gaming establishment she was registered gaming employee at the time? In other words, is she saying that never happened and she wasn't involved in that?
She is saying that, or at our conversations that we've had, she's saying that this did happen, and that she did talk to the people at the Bellagio, her supervisors, when this had happened, and they stated that she was being as forthcoming as she could at the time. So she stated,
let's be candid here.
Okay.
Is it her contention she didn't improperly receive comps from her husband in a gaming establishment?
She did, Your Honor. She did.
She did.
Yep.
Okay, well, I appreciate you being candid. So she did in fact receive improperly comps at a gaming establishment by and through her husband while she was a registered gaming employee, correct?
Yes, and she did.
Is that yes?
Yes, yes.
Okay, that's what I wanted to make sure we have a clear record.
Yes.
Okay, does she wish to address us? She can't add anything new to what happened outside of the hearing.
Right.
But if she wants to address the commission right now, this is a time for her to do it, but we can't add anything new to the decision or those proceedings. So if she wants to address what occurred at those proceedings or whatever she wants to do, this is a time for her to have her chance to do it.
And you will be able to hear from her briefly. Like I said, I just advised her, of a statement to you guys. So if it is a little bit.
We're okay.
Okay, that's all I wanted to clarify. Go ahead.
We'd like to hear from her, please.
Okay.
She's going to have to speak loud and speak into the mic.
Okay, sorry. I born in Korea, and then I've been here. I came here when I was 29 years, almost 16 years. And then I start working as a dealer right after year. And then I've been here 15 years gaming business. And then I never had any instance mistakes whole my life, 45 years. And but this, and I made a mistake. And if you guys give me a chance one more time, I mean, just stay in the gaming business to support my 3 kids. And I'm not gonna do happen like this again.
Is there anything else you want to add to that?
I did speak with her, just saying that she's willing to do, if the commission did find a way to reinstate her, that anything that they would deem appropriate, say a probationary period, paying it back, any kind of counseling, anything that they decided to do, she would be willing to do.
Okay. Commissioners, do you have any questions? Commissioner Cohen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I take at face value your presentation. I also realize that you believe it was a mistake, an error in judgment, but it was a one-off. I also believe that what you did goes to the heart of what we as commissioners have to deal with for the integrity of the game, the integrity of the system. You breach the integrity of the system. No matter what you say to us, well-intentioned, mind you. Look, I'll make restitution. I'll do these other things, probationary periods. We can take that into consideration because what you're saying is, oops, I'm sorry, I got caught. And we're not going to get into, what happened with your ex-husband and, but we're here to look at the fact that you, as an employee in a gaming establishment, took advantage of the system, no matter how you look at it. You took advantage of the cosmopolitan in obtaining comps you weren't legally entitled to. I, for one, I can't look beyond that. Now, on the good side of this, it's a 1-year period that this would be in effect. So assuming things happen where maybe you're not charged, your husband takes full responsibility. I don't know what the future may bring. You'd be able to come back, before us, in a year, with something. But as of today, I cannot, under any set of circumstances, support the reinstatement of your gaming application. But I'm just one vote. But thank you.
Very good. Commissioner Brown, do you have anything further? Any questions?
Unfortunately, I'm not convinced by the presentation today. And Council, you did an excellent job with the material you had to work with, but it's a gold standard here, and it's a high standard. And to have good morals and character, and for your children to look up to, it's important. And I'm not comfortable that you're a different person today. Commissioner Cohen said you got caught. I know you spent $7,744 in the comps that I understand of the 100,000. I don't know why you didn't spend more. I don't know if you got caught and that's why you stopped. I do understand that you asserted the Fifth Amendment privilege previously, and maybe it would have been a good idea to explain yourself. I know that you were concerned about implications with the district attorney's office, and I'm just not comfortable with the appeal at this point based on the record that's been proffered by the appellant. It's simply not good enough, and I hope she has alternative employment. I know that there were some issues with you and Jonathan going back and forth to each other, even though there was a divorce or separation. So I don't have enough information that convinces me that you have completely walked away. And if you have, you made a decision on your own. I don't know if you've ever made representations that he's coerced you, whose idea it was, who talked you into it, if it was your idea. I don't know anything about the genesis of what transpired, how long you discussed it, how you came up with the scheme, but it's a scheme and it's $100,000 and he used somebody's password to transfer the credits from somebody else. And it's troubling to me. And I cannot support this, not at this time.
All right, Commissioner. Okay, any other questions? Not saying, I don't have any questions. I wouldn't be able to support her. Just so you know, on my history with the Gaming Commission on these kind of matters, if there's wrongdoing by an employee in the workplace, I historically, and you can go back and check, I historically do not support them going back into the gaming business. I think, you know, we're like Vice Chair Cohen said, we're entrusted on behalf of the state of Nevada with keeping the integrity of the game, keeping the integrity of gaming. Your client admits that she did wrong. I don't think enough time has gone by. This happened allegedly sometime around February of 2020. I just can't, I can't support any motion other than one for denial and upholding the hearing officer's decision and the board decision. So having said that, believe you me, I've stood out there many times with gaming employees that I represented, and I understand you had a hard task. I appreciate your truthfulness here in front of us today and her truthfulness, but enough time hasn't gone by yet for this for me. So having said that, I don't know if you have anything further, but if you don't, I'm going to call for a motion and see where it goes.
I do not at this time.
All right, thank you.
And I did see you, Mrs. Fesser, shaking your head when I talked about the $7,744 in comps that I understand was transferred from other players' accounts. So if I misunderstood, please clarify. This is your opportunity.
I think in my dealings with her and speaking with her, when we address those, I think she's just more upset about, you know, what's transpired and how it's gotten to here. It's nothing of any denial of it, you know, what the report says.
Just want to make sure my recitation and understanding is
Yes.
accurate. And if it's not, I'd like to afford you the opportunity at this time to correct
No,
it.
and that is no mean disrespectful.
No,
to any
I'm not
representations or
offended
anything
at all.
like
I just like to get the record clear. Thank you.
All right, do we have a motion? Commissioner Cohen?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I would move to sustain the board's objection dated as of June 30th, 2021.
Very good. Any discussion on the motion by the vice chair? Not seeing any. A call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, unanimously carries it. Thank you for coming down here today. Maybe you can tell your client we appreciate everything she said. Come back and see in a year. We'll see where we're at and what she's doing. But, you know, based on the law and the regulations and the finding of the hearing officer and the board, we simply have to support that in this case. We can't condone any kind of misconduct in the gaming establishment. So.
And she understands that, and she's going to be rehabilitating over the next year so we can present it again. And on a side note, off this matter, Mr. Moran, Chairman Moran, I know of you and your family and the work in the community. I grew up here, St. Francis de Sales, Bishop Gorman, my sister from the Meadows. I've seen your name and family's name throughout the community, and appreciate everything that you've done for this. And obviously the Gaming Commission, Gaming Board is, like you said, the gold standard and a very important part of our city here. So thank you for your service. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Comments. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Good luck.
All right. I guess we have regulations.
That is correct. Next for your consideration are proposed amendments to Nevada Gaming Commission Regulations 7A.017 and 4A.020 as noted on the agenda.
All right. I see we have Mr. McCullough. Good afternoon.
Yes. Good afternoon, Chair Moran, members of the commission, members of the board, Madam Secretary. Again, for the record, I am John McKellar with the Attorney General's office. And since Madam Secretary read both of the regulation items into the agenda, I will go ahead and present both of those to you now, unless you would like me to separate them.
No, you can do both of them at the same time.
Okay. Turning to Regulation 7A.017. Before you today for your consideration and possible adoption are some changes which revise and update the limitations period found in Regulation 7A.017. The draft date of the proposed changes before you today is June 30th, 2021. The intent of these changes is to tighten up the patron dispute limitations periods. Presently, for disputes involving less than $500, a patron must notify the board within a set amount of time as set out in current regulation 7A.017 subsection 1. For disputes involving at least $500, the licensee is required to notify the board and a patron dispute commences upon licensee notice. This is set out in current regulation 7A.017 subsection 2. The regulation was written that way so as to not allow a licensee to prevent a patron dispute action from occurring by notifying the board too late. However, subsequent to the passage of 7A.017 by the Commission on January 21st, 2021, the board's hearings office brought to my attention that this could punish a licensee which was not aware of a dispute because a patron has not brought the dispute to the licensee's attention until well after the licensee is no longer required to maintain records regarding the play at issue. The changes before you today resolve this issue by creating limitations periods for disputes concerning at least $500 based on when a patron notifies a licensee or a licensee otherwise becomes aware of the dispute. The board recommended these changes to you and that these changes should be effective upon your adoption and approval. And I would request that you adopt these changes as recommended to you by the board. Turning now to Regulation 4A.020. This is before you today for your consideration and possible adoption. Some changes which update the fees charged for a charitable lottery or charitable game in Regulation 4A.020. The draft date of the proposed changes before you today is August 16th, 2021. The intent of these changes is to bring the fees into line with the changes passed into law this last legislative session through AB 202. AB 202 capped fees on charitable organizations which offer less than $100,000 in prizes during a calendar year at $10. The proposed changes before you today set this fee at $0. This is because the administrative costs in collecting and processing a $10 fee will cause a burden on staff and will overly complicate what could be a simple and clean process. The board recommended these changes to you and that the changes should be effective upon your adoption and approval. I request that you adopt these changes as recommended to you by the board, and also the changes to Regulation 7A as recommended to you by the board. I am, as always, happy to answer any questions you may have. And thank you. And also, as this will be the last of my many appearances before Chair Moran, I wish to thank Chair Moran for his service on the commission, his thoughtful consideration of each of the items brought before him, and the many kind words he has had for me over the years. I hope you enjoy whatever endeavors you pursue next. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McCullough, and as always, great job, and I appreciate your kind words. You and I spent some time on these two regulations, and we talked about them at length like we do on all the other ones. You always do such a fantastic job on these things. It's amazing, and I understand the purposes behind both. I would have no problem following the board's recommendations on this. I think they're both well placed, and the changes would definitely make the process more user-friendly and easier. Anyway, having said that, I'll turn to my commissioners, my fellow commissioners, to see if they have anything further. They're shaking their heads. All right, do we have a motion on these?
Mr. Chair, I'm happy to make a motion. I move for the adoption of the proposed changes to Regulation 7A as set forth in the draft date dated June 30th, 2021, and also to the proposed changes to Regulation 4A as set forth in the draft dated August 16th, 2021, both as recommended by the Game Control Board and both to be effective upon adoption. Does that cover everything?
Yes, it does, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Very good, Commissioner Solsreni. Excellent job on the motion. Any comment on the motion? Let's call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thanks again, Mr. McCullough. You're going down in the history books as being the last attorney on official business I've talked to. Thank you.
Well, I consider that a great honor, and I have genuinely appreciated your thoughtful consideration of all the items I've brought before you over the years. And thank you very much.
Well, you do a great job for the state, and keep going. And it's always a pleasure to see you. Thank you. All right. I think that's it then.
That actually brings you to your administrative reports.
Okay. Chair Gibson.
Thank you, Chairman Moran. First, let me say that as someone who comes from a family that values public service, and having a grandfather and a father who served many years as elected officials, your service on the Wildlife Commission, and then as chair, CRC, and then as chair, Gaming Commission, now as chair, will go down in history as in my remembrance, probably as one of the top 5, maybe even fewer people that I've ever seen serve in the history of the state. So I thank you for your service. It's outstanding. Beyond that, our next meeting will be on the 13th of October. It'll be in Carson City. We'll have 7 non-restricted items, 14 restricted items, and a few other ancillary items as well. Thank you, sir.
Well, thank you, Chair Gibson. And I always enjoyed working with you. And before you became chair, I remember getting together on a lot of things, and you're the right man for the job, and you're doing a great job as chair. I also want to thank your board members who are with you. You guys do a great job. You make the commission's job a lot easier, and we appreciate everything you do. And it's been a pleasure working with all 3 of you. And I appreciate everything you've done for our commission. Thank you for your comments. Okay, are we ready to adjourn?
That brings us to public comment.
Uh-oh, this is trouble.
This item is placed on the agenda to allow the public an opportunity to comment on gaming related matters.
I'm just glad I'm not being sworn in. In any event, good afternoon, commission members, Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, board members, Senior Deputy McGaw. I see Chief Labadie is here as well. It's nice to see you all here. I'm going to be brief. I am Chairman Moran's eldest son, JT, for those of you who don't know me. And I seem to be the most fortunate, or at least I think, of all the 4 children to have had the opportunity to work with my father professionally as a lawyer, day in and day out, and over the course of the past 20 years. Aside from just being my dad, though he has served as my mentor, my teacher, my legal advisor, let the record reflect, on non-gaming related matters solely, at least over the last 17 years, let the record be corrected. But best of all, he is my best friend, with the sole exception of my wife, in case she's listening in on the video. But my best friend for 49 years. But commission members, I want to first thank you for the opportunity, Vice Chair Cohen, for giving me this opportunity to provide a few thoughts about my father as he departs his current roles and responsibilities here at State Gaming in Nevada. And I promise, Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, Commissioners, Madam Executive Secretary, that I will be brief. My dad's uncanny ability to always make the right decision. Now, the most important decision my dad has ever made was somehow convincing my fabulous mother to marry him. She's back here, Maryland. As all of us know, we cannot pick our parents, but we most certainly can choose wisely whom to marry, partner with, or otherwise. Suffice to say, my mom's yes opened the floodgates to endless opportunities for my father, one of which being the privilege to serve this great state as public servant and raise a family here in Southern Nevada. My mom and dad met many, many years back, I believe Hyde Park Junior High. They started dating at Western High School, and that was in the 60s. During summer breaks from school, My mother worked in the cage as a cashier at the Stardust, which was one of my grandfather's, was one of the casinos that was owned and operated by my grandfather, Herb, during those days. And at the same time, my father was working days as a lifeguard at the pool at the Stardust and working nights in the showroom, as he indicated earlier. The El Cortez is a busboy waiter for Mr. Gone. The town was very, very small back then, and everybody knew each other. It was very fun. My dad's lifetime commitment to public service, starting with his service to our country in the military overseas and fighting in what some would call a very unpopular war in Vietnam. My dad put himself in harm's way without adoration or hesitation and became part of, in my opinion, America's warrior class. When my dad returned home years later, his service turned to Nevada. He went through the police academy and was badged by my late grandfather, John Moran Sr., who was the undersheriff at the time, undersheriff under Ralph Lamb before the merger, and and who later became sheriff of Clark County, my grandfather, John Sr., in the 80s and the 90s. But my dad's service was abroad in the military, and it shifted to service to his community and making sure it was protected and safe for visitors and residents alike as a law enforcement officer before going to law school and moving forward with his legal career. Public service for my father became a way of life, and it became a way of life for my entire family, my siblings, and I. Oftentimes, his service to others compromised the integrity of his full time and attention to our family, but he did it all, and my mom held down the fort in his absence. Of course, he was appointed by Governor Miller to the Colorado River Commission. He chaired it. He was appointed by Governor Gwynn to the Wildlife Commission. He also chaired that too. And then I believe one day in 2004, Governor Gwynn showed up at the office with his security detail downtown. I, quite frankly, thought he was there to give me some sort of an appointment, but no, he was there to ask my father to serve on the most prestigious regulatory tribunal in the state, the Nevada Gaming Commission. Of course, my dad accepted that, and we are here today. He was reappointed by Governor Gibbons, who was a great governor as well, and by Governor Sandoval, I think twice. And finally, Governor Sisolak made what I would call his best decision in office, and that being the appointment of my father as the leader and chair to this particular tribunal. I reached out to friends and family and had family and friends unsolicited reach out to me when they heard my father was contemplating a departure from his assignment by the governor, the most recent assignment as chair, and leaving the commission. I spoke with state senators, state assembly members, county commissioners, mayors, United States senators. I even spoke with the United States president and OK golfer, but he will remain unnamed. I also talked to past governors, gaming industry leaders, resort association reps from all parts of the world, whether the Far East, the EU, UK, even the Latin Americas, all of which commented similarly, of course. Your father was always a part of the solution and never a part of the problem. And regardless of the issues before him, he inspired and helped those less fortunate, steadily so. He was always able to rise above even in the face of adversity or sometimes tragedy. Your father always did the right thing and never wavered, and his moral compass was never compromised. He is an unforgettable character and the last of the Mohicans, to share just a few. What do I admire most about my dad? Well, he is an incredible husband. He is the best dad. He has become an amazing grandfather, but his unrelenting commitment to the state of Nevada and its constituency for all these years demonstrate the authenticity and genuineness of public service. He cared for people. He cared for human beings and the general welfare of our communities all throughout the state. He made real sacrifices, but to him, this was just POD, or part of the deal, as he would regularly say. And he would follow that comment with, "It's easy to do what I love." And he did that on this board. He also did this on the Colorado River Commission, and he also did this on the Wildlife Commission. But we got to go fish in the Ruby Mountains. That was more fun than coming up here and appearing in front of the commission and having to recuse and whatnot. And that was interesting too. But Dad, I'm going to miss seeing you on the bench with your fellow commissioners and Madam Clerk, of course, as well. You will be missed by so many others that you came into contact with professionally or otherwise as a result of your long-term and undying public service. The state has been served well, and as you have suggested to the media, it is time for someone else to have a chance to rise to the occasion, exhibit leadership, enjoy the privilege and position, and move the state forward, knowing that a very solid foundation has been fabricated and choreographed on your watch and on the watch of other greats such as Randolph Townsend, Pete Bernhardt, Judge Pro, Dr. Alamo, Steve Cohen, Debbie Fooch, Ogana and Rosa and Ogana as well, and all the others that came before you on this particular commission. One last thing I wish to share is I asked my dad the other day, and I found it interesting, what we were going to do after today's hearing. And he told me that we're going to head on over to the Red Rock Station and we're going to make a bet on the Raiders to win this weekend against the Dolphins, since he can now gamble again after 17 years. We'll be using his money. Thank you, Dad. Unbelievable job well done. I mean, I would echo the remarks of the chairman of the Gaming Control Board, Vern Gibson, friend, colleague. I mean, you're just a giant, a legend, and it's a privilege for me to just be your son. So thanks, Dad.
Thanks, JT. Touched my heart with that one. Thank you. All right. I guess we're ready to adjourn.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Aren't we?
We would be remiss if we didn't say a few words, and I don't want to take everyone's time, and we can talk more later, but you have shown me tremendous kindness and strength and leadership, and I appreciate your mentorship, and you'll be missed.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you. I echo that. John was the first to reach out after my appointment and extended an offer of help. He's always been willing to listen to any questions that I have. He's given good advice, and I think he genuinely loves what he does, and it shows. And it's definitely been inspirational to watch your career, and I'm glad that I got to be a small part of it.
Thank you. Enjoyed working with you a lot. Thank you.
Chairman Moran,
Vice Chair.
it has been an honor to serve with you. It has been an honor to sit next to you during these months. I can't begin to tell you how much I learned. I thought I knew a lot coming in, but I've learned an incredible amount from you. What you've done in the state, in the public service sector, it's without peer. I myself think you should go for a fourth chairmanship in something out there. I mean, no one will touch that forever. I can't begin to tell you how much I appreciate you as a friend. And again, we go back to the 70s. With your wife, the same. Thank you for being my friend. Thank you for being my mentor. Thank you for allowing me the privilege of sitting next to you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Appreciate it. All right. I think we're ready, right?
Nope, one last one. I just wanted to say thank you. And also, we do have a gift for you. Unfortunately, we do not have it here today, but for a very good reason. Today, with the help of Chair Gibson and the governor's office, a Nevada state flag was flown over the Capitol in your honor for your service to the state. And once we have received it, we will make sure that we get it to you.
Thank you. Marie, I've got to tell you, you've helped me so much through these different times, both personal and professionally. And I can't thank you enough for all you do for the commission. I know all my fellow commissioners, we talk about it all the time, and what a phenomenal job you do for us. You keep us out of trouble. You keep us focused. When we stub our toe, you're always there to figure out for us how we're going to rub some dirt on it and walk away. And we appreciate you very much and all the stuff you do for the state of Nevada and the commission. You wear two hats, You're the liaison for us with the board that we love and respect greatly. And I can't thank you enough for all the things that you've done for me and the commission and the board. So thank you.
You're very welcome.
All right. I think we can go into adjournment now, right?
Yes, we can.
In the words of Dr. Alamo, that's a wrap. And good luck to everybody going forward. And I'll watch from afar. Thank you.